And a very warm welcome to TEDxFHNW 2021. It's been a long journey to organize this event in the times of the pandemic, but we've poured our heart and souls into it to ensure only the best for all of you. So I hope you're all comfortable because we have a spectacular afternoon planned out for you. It's great to see so many of you here, both virtually and in person, this afternoon to make this event a success. And it's my great privilege and pleasure to welcome you here on behalf of TEDxFHNW. My name's Nafisa. I'm one of the lead organizers here, and I'll be introducing you to all the speakers. Nicholas, one of the other lead organizers, will do the live interviews. And the world is full of dazzling diamonds and priceless gems, and we are in the presence of some of them here today as speakers at TEDxFHNW. We have 9 amazing talks in store for you, ranging from sustainability, creativity, and motivation, to gender equality and the power of decision-making. As all of you hopefully know by now, the theme is the past, the future, the best version of yourself. So prepare yourself to be challenged, excited, and inspired. We're counting on your support to make this event memorable and fantastic. So for the virtual attendees, please don't forget to participate in the live chat. If you have any questions, please ask them. If you're feeling extra nice, maybe drop a compliment for the TEDxFHNW family. And for the live audience, please make sure that your phones are switched off and that they're all on silent. And I think I've done enough talking for now. So who's ready for the first talk? Perfect. I think there are some thumbs up in the chat, and our live audience is also ready. So without further ado, let's introduce the first speaker. We've picked an incredibly inspiring personality to open this event for you today. And I'm very glad that we have her here. When it comes to never giving up and striving to be the best version of yourself, she's the expert. Soozana went from migrating from country to country, losing her best friend to cancer at 15, and being constantly discouraged by her environment, to attaining a Master of Science in Cancer Biology and a PhD in ovarian cancer. And now she'll share her profound story with you and let you in on a few tips. So get comfortable, you're in for a hell of a story, and please help me in welcoming our first speaker, Dr. Soozana Puvanenthiran.
"32 years ago, a little girl was born to a family, a big family, the eldest granddaughter in that family. Like every child, she grew up and as everyone asks, what do you want to do? What do you want to become when you're older? They asked her. The 5-year-old, she's quite witty, she's quite, legendary. She answered back, she said, I'm going to become a scientist. And they said, why? Well, I'm going to become a scientist because my granddad has no hair on his head, and I'm going to find a medication for that. Ladies and gentlemen, that legendary child was me. So Soozana, a BSc in biomedical science, a master's in cancer biology, a PhD in ovarian cancer research, an entrepreneur, and a professional wedding photographer. Who is she? She must be like the class topper. She must be genetically smart, She must be great. She must be so talented. She must be so good. Let's rewind back to when I was 5 years old again. Let's go back. When I was 5 years old, I held onto my mum's hand. She wanted to travel. She wanted to move. I held onto her hand. We moved from Sri Lanka to Singapore. Then we went from Singapore to Sri Lanka to India. Then from India, we moved to the United Kingdom, England, London. And that's where I resided in. But as soon as I got there, I went straight into school. They put me straight into school, year 5. Bearing in mind, I missed 5 years of education at that point. I had no basic understanding of maths, science, maybe I knew English, bits and bobs. But I went in there, daunted, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to behave. But this is where my life gave me something so precious. A friend. Her name was Shani. She came into my life. She stood by me. She was full of life. She was full of color. She was an artist. She was also kind of dramatic as well, to be honest. But she was always there for me. She said, Soozana, don't worry. You can do this. You're fine. You can do this. She was always there next to me saying, you can do this. She was a close friend of mine. We were so close, we ended up going to the same secondary school, high school. And a few months later, she came up to me and she said, hey, there's something wrong with my leg. Look, it's quite big. I said, that looks massive. What's wrong? Maybe an infection. She said, yeah, perhaps. I said, maybe you need to go to the doctors and find out what's wrong with you. She said, okay, yeah, you're right. And she did. She went, she came back. I said, hey, you're looking good. What's happened? She goes, Suze, I have cancer. And I said, sorry, what? She said, I have cancer. I have osteosarcoma. I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what cancer was. I was like, oh, okay, it must be something that you can get medications to. It should be fine. You'll be all right. She said, yeah, I hope so. I hope so. So she went, she got her medication, she came back. She was fine. She was fantastic. She went off again. She came back. This time she had no hair on her head. I was confused. I was like, what is going on with her? Then she went off again. She came back. She went off. She came back. She went off. And she never came back. And I'd lost her to the battle of cancer. All these years, I've had someone stand next to me and say, you can do this. And for the first time in my life, I had no one to say that to me. And that was really daunting. I had lost her to a disease that I had never known about. And that brought in fire in me. I was like, what is this? Science is going to save us. Something is going to save us. I want to do science. I want to do medicine. I want to become a doctor. That was my dream. But bearing in mind, I wasn't good at education. I went into high school with no basic experience of maths and English and science, and as I said earlier on. But I did it. I went forward. I was walking in. I was doing all I could. But I was always 10 steps behind every other child in the room. Okay, fine. It reminded me that I really needed help. I really needed more help than I could have. So I decided to get tuition. I started to do extra classes. My family were a little disappointed in me. My friends would laugh at me. I was constantly laughed at because I just didn't know how to do basic stuff. I said, okay, that's fine. That's okay. I'm going to get through this. I will. And I did. And I went for those classes. And there was a teacher, and he was teaching me science. And he said, let's do this. And we did. We went for that science. And he taught me something, and I learnt it. And he told me to answer the question. And I tried to answer it, and I couldn't. I couldn't answer it. He looked at me, and he put the board marker on the table, slammed it on the table, he put both of his hands on the table, and he looked right into my eyes. And he said, Soozana, this is not for you. You're not good at academics. I said, oh. He said, you're good at art, you are artistic, go and do something in that. Pursue that. Don't pursue science. It's not for you. It shocked me. A teacher's telling me that I'm not good at something and I shouldn't do it, even though I loved it so much. Okay, fair enough. That's okay. I stood there questioning myself. I stood there thinking, okay, you're right, I'm not good at this. Maybe I should let it go. Maybe for 5 minutes. But then I thought, you know what, forget it. I'm going to start again. And I did. I decided that I would go back and pursue my dream, which is science, and I did. Most children, when they finish high school, they go to A-levels, they go to higher education. Most of them would do single biology, single chemistry, single physics, single maths, to do medicine, of course. But I couldn't get into any of those, because I was not good any of those. But there was something for me. There was something for people like me, and it was called applied science. So I got into that. I managed to get into that, and I did. But guess what, guys? You would not believe. When I finished my exams in applied science, I failed again, as I did all the time. My dream of becoming a doctor flew out the window. My dream of wanting to save lives just came out of me. And every university that I applied for, out of 10, it was reject, 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 reject. Oh, hold on. One university. While all the universities out of the 10 wanted your grades, one of them was like, you don't have the grades, you have the points. You did really well in your art, and your total points come out really well. And I said, okay. They were like, we'll give you an opportunity. And I'm so thankful for that. I really am. I got into my first degree, which is the biomedical science degree. I walked in superior, very superior. You know, when you walk into the first day into your university, you feel great. You feel like a superhero. You're like, new shoes, new bag, new clothes, new life. You walk in and you're like, yes. And I did. I walked in like, this is it. Then I did my exams and I did my coursework, and I was like, no, 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 this is not it. No, I'm not a superhero anymore. Because again, I was failing. I was getting bad grades. I was failing. Friends were nourishing. They were going high and high and high. And there was me. It's just going low and low and low. I loved science so much. I loved genetics so much that I taught my friends how to do it. I taught my friends, this is how you do it, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. They would go to the exam. They would pass with flying colors. I would fail. What I used to do is, I used to come out of the exam, I'd go straight into the toilet, with a big smile, of course, sit in the toilet and cry. I used to cry for like 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. Then I'd walk out again, I'm like, I'm doing this again. And no matter how many times I went and I failed, I would go back to the bathroom, cry for 5 minutes, and I would walk out again saying, let's restart. Doesn't matter, let's restart. And I did. Somehow I got to my final year of my degree, and this is where you get to choose your project. My bus is late. I run into my professor's office late. And this is the first time I'm meeting my professor. His name was Professor Helmut Muchtahidi. I walked in, and he was like, you're late. And I was like, yeah, sorry. And he was like, there's only one title left for you. Are you okay with that? And I said, okay, yeah. Do I have any choice? No, let's do this. It was cancer related. I was like, okay, let's do this. Right, I walked out of that office feeling fantastic, guys. I knew I was gonna do this. Yes, forget the plenty times that I failed. Let's do this. Let's do this again. Let's do it. And I did. I spent 6 months doing this project, and I was ecstatic. It was fantastic. I loved it. I loved every part of this project. And I had 5 days left for my deadline. I was early. I had finished early. I thought, all right, let me go and print my work, proofread it, come back, and then I can submit it maybe in the next 2-3 days. I went to print, and I came back, and hey, where's my laptop? It got stolen. That is the luck I had, sadly. I went frantic. I cried. I ran around the entire library looking for my laptop. Maybe my friend was just playing around with me, taking it. Nope. It was gone. It was gone for real. And I had no backup of it whatsoever. It didn't even print. I went into my professor's office, and I cried, and he just went, okay, what's going on? Oh, by the way, I looked really ugly when I cried. It wasn't a really nice sight. But he looked at me and he said, relax, what's up? And I said, sir, I've lost my laptop. I've got my work on there. He was like, all right, calm down. And I was like, okay. He was like, this has happened to me before when I was doing my PhD. Don't worry, I'm going to find you an extension. You can do this. Huh? For the first time, I have failed again, terribly. I should have backed that up. But instead of shouting at me, instead of telling me that I did something wrong, there is a teacher in front of me telling me it's okay. You're going to be fine. We'll fix this together. Wow. I walked away from that office telling myself one thing: I am not going to take that extension. I went home. I spent 4 days until every early morning to every midnight. I finished that 6-month project in 4 days, 1 day earlier than the deadline. And I went into his office and I handed it over looking really unattractive. And he looked at me and he said, "What is this?" I said, "This is the thesis that I was supposed to give to you." And he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "You know what, sir? Thank you so much for your opportunity, but mark me as equally as everyone else that is supposed to be here with you." And he said, "Okay," and he did. A couple of months later, I got the grade. I looked at it, and it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen in my life. It wasn't a fail. I passed gracefully and really well. You know, sometimes bad things do happen in your life, and we spend time and time and time dwelling on it, but not all bad things are bad. I am glad that laptop got stolen that day, because if that laptop wasn't stolen that day, I would never have known what my strength was, and my strength was research. I thanked my professor and I told him, "Thank you." I said, "I really want to do more. What can I do? Can I take a gap year? Can I do a master's?" And he said, No, don't take a gap year. It's fresh in your mind. Do your master's now." I said, "Okay." I did my master's. I was acing it. Every topic, I was acing it. I was fantastic. Got through it. I got a great grade. I came past it. Then he said, "Soozana, there's a position for a PhD in ovarian cancer. It's half funded. You'll have to fund the other half, but you get to work with me." I said, "Sir, let's do this." And I did. So when I went and told my parents, they were like, "Let's do this as well." It was really expensive. So for the first year of my PhD, my mum funded me, and it was great. Then she got unwell. That's where my big problem came in. What am I going to do for the money? I've come this far, I can't go back anymore. Right. I'm good at art. I'm artistic. I picked up a camera, and I made that a professional business for the weekend. I became a photographer. I became a wedding photographer. So I would work Monday to Friday at the lab. Saturday and Sunday, I would be Swiss, Germany, Australia, anywhere you name it in the world. I was taking photographs of weddings. I made the money, I paid off my PhD, and I passed it. At the end, I published 3 original scientific articles. I have done 2 postdoctoral positions, and now I'm on my 3rd postdoctoral position, looking at extracellular vesicles in cancer at Oxford Brookes University in Oxford. Is this the girl that failed a lot? Yeah, it is. I failed plenty of times. And you know, when my friend passed away, I never thought I was going to get into cancer. But I feel like she's brought me here. She's brought me to cancer, as cancer specialist in research. If I wanted, I could have failed plenty of times and just let it go. But I didn't know how to give up. I loved my topic so much, I just didn't know how to give up. It's not that I didn't know I wanted to give up, I just didn't know how to give up. I would just restart again and start again and start again. And it was a fantastic time, regardless of the pain I went through. Fail. Teacher walks in. He makes my life perfect. It also reminds you that if you have the right teacher next to you, the right person to recognize your abilities, or the right person to recognize your failures, they will pull you through it. There's a thing in my language, they say, Mata, Pita, Guru, which means before God, it's mum, it's dad, it's teacher. And that's exactly what happened in my life. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your moment.
Hello, welcome also from my side. As Nafisa already said, I'll be interviewing all the amazing speakers that we have today after their talks. And I'll answer or try to answer all the questions that we receive through the chat, through the live chat that you have on YouTube. So please really don't be shy to ask all your questions, and I'll answer them. Thank you again very much, and please another round of applause for Soozana. It was an amazing talk.
Thank you so much.
A question that popped up in the chat was, where did you get all this motivation to really keep going?
I think it all rooted from the fact that I really wanted to make a difference after I lost my friend. And if science was the way forward, the motivation was in me because of her. Yeah, that would be the way.
That's interesting. Thank you for that. And another question that we saw was, right, in academics, you're always publishing your results, and it gets questioned by everyone. Did you ever have any struggles by publishing your academic work, that it might have been questioned or that you might have not felt proud of, or maybe even made a mistake?
Well, you can't make a mistake when you're publishing something scientific. It goes through various levels of criticism, through just the colleagues that I work with my professor. And to be honest, with every paper, there is 4 reviewers that look at it before you publish it. It's a very long process. You can be doing a research for 3 years, and it might take you another 2 years to publish the results that you have. So there's no space for mistakes.
Wow. And another question is, what would you like to achieve as a scientist? Do you have a goal in mind, or is it really just you go step by step and the next opportunity you get and then you fully focus on that, or do you have kind of this vision where you want to be?
I usually go with the flow. I don't think about what's going to happen next. But what I'm really strong about is that I do want to stay in the field of cancer research, and my goal is to be part of that. So hopefully that's where I will get to be.
Cool. And is there anything in particular in cancer that you would really, what interests you and what you would like to keep researching on?
Well, I can say a lot on cancer. And the most interesting thing about cancer is that in our body, it's like an entire world. We have the good guys, like you have the immune system, you have genes that help you from getting infections, and you have all sorts of things in your body. Your body is amazing, like how it protects you. And then you have the cancer, the bad guy. It comes in and tries to, evade you and go through you and block you and stop you. And, it's just like a war within us. There's a war within us in our body. And I think there's of course, it takes a lot to understand that. But I think we need to keep making awareness, and that is really important. But yeah.
We just received another question in the chat. What advice do you have for people who are missing a teacher or a guiding person in their lives? And what advice would you give them?
That's a really good question, because to be honest, most of my life I have been struggling on my own, and only towards my degree at the end of it is where I found my professor who was able to guide me in the right way. I think the main thing is to never lose hope. You should first trust in yourself before anyone else trusts in you, because you can't expect the world to trust in you if you don't trust in yourself. So go headstrong and just do what you need to do, for sure.
Cool. Yeah, that's definitely helpful, right? It's really just keep persisting and don't stop, and the right person will come.
Exactly.
Another question that came is, when you arrived in London and you started school there, did you have people who helped you with your homework, or people who taught you how to prepare for the exams or how to talk, or?
No, I didn't have any help. I think because my parents were very busy as well, they didn't have time to do that for me. My dad tried to teach me maths, and he hated it because I was terrible at it. I still am, to be honest. So he got frustrated and decided that, he would give me extra classes from somewhere else. But I think I had to find my way for a lot of things, my own way. And it was my own determination of not wanting to fail again and again kept me going.
Another one that just came is, do you still find time for the passion, or also the hobby, or the job that enabled you to actually do what you do today, or where you are now, the photography? Do you still have time for that?
Yeah, actually, I still do that on the weekends. So somehow I multitask my entire life. I get this question a lot, how I do it. But I think if you really love something, you will make time for it no matter what. And I love both my jobs equally. And therefore, I give it my 100% to both.
And you're still shooting weddings, or you've changed your angle of photography?
No, it's still weddings. I mean, obviously last year, because of the pandemic, a lot of weddings were stalled. And this year it's, restarted again. So head on strong.
And what about weddings is it that it interests you? Is it just you like the atmosphere, or what is it?
It's funny you ask me, because when I'm doing cancer research, I'm dealing with, the sadness of cancer and dealing with, illnesses and all sorts of depressing things. And then I go to a wedding and then I'm looking at love, I'm looking at happiness, I'm looking at family, I'm looking at joy. I feel like it makes both of my brain work, both sides of it for sure.
That's true, though. It gives you, again, right, it shows you the worst sides of your life, and then on the weekends when shooting, it shows you the best. Great. No, thank you very much again. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. And
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
again, please, a big round of applause for Soozana.
It's difficult to be optimistic and to stay motivated all the time. Soozana did it, and so can you. How, you may ask? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Our next speaker will show you in the next talk by presenting 5 golden rules on how to start the day motivated. He'll put his 15 years of expertise in healing methods, positive psychology, and development to use in his talk, and will hopefully give you the power to start the day in a positive manner, instead of waking up to scrolling through social media for 20 minutes. And yes, I'm guilty of that too. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Hoffmann.
Hello to everyone. How are you today? Are you good? Did you sleep well? Yes? Oh, Chris, you're still sleeping. Sorry, I didn't want to wake you up. What I would like to do is to invite you to wake up in a different way. In a way that is better for you. A way that has a positive impact on your entire day and that has the power to put you in your personal pole position. But first we should have a look at how things normally run in the mornings. How do most people begin their day? The alarm clock rings and the first thing is to push the snooze button and maintain staying in bed and keep sleeping. 5 minutes later, the alarm goes on again and the snooze button will be pushed again. And this process repeats for 3 or 4 times until they realize that it's already too late and they really have to get up now. What will happen next? They go up instantly and make their way as quickly as possible to the bathroom. Possibly they bump their toe against the edge of the bed and think, "Oh my gosh!" You know this pain, right? How do you feel in this situation? Are you relaxed, happy, and powerful? Probably not. You are stressed, I mean your toe hurts, and maybe you are in an angry state of mind and still need to go to the bathroom. The next thing many people do is grabbing their mobile. Statistics from 2018 show that 41% of all respondents look at their mobile phone within the first 15 minutes after waking up. And in my opinion, the numbers since 2018 have drastically increased. Which topics are dealt with here early in the morning with the mobile phone? The weather forecast has to be checked. And if the weather forecast is bad, they feel a little bit worse. never mind if they can influence it or not. Daily news are checked. And you know which topics are in the foreground here. Mainly negative things. Economic crisis, unemployment, illness, and maybe that their favorite sports club has lost the last game. All in one, a disaster. The more negative information they put in their system, the more they feel worse. And in this mental and emotional state, they will go to work. And on the way to the work, maybe some other situations will happen. Let's assume you had these experiences. And you are driving your car, and all of a sudden, someone is pushing in front of you. How will you react to it? Most likely, you will react with anger. Probably you will raise your fist and send some nice words to the partner in front of you. But finally, you make it to the office. And on the aisle, you meet a colleague. But today, he doesn't greet you the way he usually does. How do you think are you feeling in this moment? Bad. Really bad. But remember, how did the day start? Do you think all the events you have experienced so far have an impact on how you react to situations and people? I will tell you a secret. It does. How you start your day has a huge influence on what and how you experience things in the rest of the day. For a better understanding, imagine you have two bowls in your body. A red one, which collects all your negative emotions, such as stress, fear, anger, or dissatisfaction. And the yellow one, which collects all your positive emotions, like gratitude, happiness, lightness, and joy. And if you know that the bowl with more content determines your perception, and your perception determines how you react to people, which bowl would you fill? Which bowl is worth filling? The positive one? Yes? I agree. But how can it work? How can you influence your emotions? I will tell you. In my time as a mental coach, I've come up with 5 golden rules that will help you filling the right bowl in your body, so that you can start your day on a positive note and start your day from your personal pole position. Rule number 1, wake up and smile. Smile for at least 1 minute. I know for many people this will be really, really hard. But what happens if you do so is that your brain will notice that and sends waves of happiness and joy throughout your body. Your brain has learned that using these special muscles and the feeling of happiness belong together. Because since your first smile, you always conditioned your brain in that way. When do we usually smile? At the moment? No, we are in a serious TED Talk. Oh, there, I see a smile. Anyway, normally we smile when something funny happens, or when we observe something funny. And this facial expression sends happiness in our body. And this learned behavior we can use for ourselves. We can reproduce happiness every single morning. Isn't that awesome? Does that make sense to you? Perfect. So note the first rule, wake up and smile. Rule number 2, the blessing. Many people associate blessing with the church or other religious institutions. But the truth is that people since the beginning have used blessings. It is something which always was done. So you can bless everything you want. Best, you start with yourself. I bless myself. I bless my thoughts. I bless my body. I bless the perfect health of my own. And you also can bless others. For example, your wife, your husband. And while you are blessing you and others, try to feel the emotion of acceptance and grace right in the morning. Are you with me? Okay. Let's go ahead with rule number 3, being thankful. Being thankful in the morning is a very important thing, because the feeling of gratitude is one of the most powerful feelings we have. And many people underestimate how powerful this feeling really is. For me, thankfulness is the most intelligent lifestyle I know, and it will instantly change your life. So be thankful for this wonderful day, for the roof over your head, for your job, or for your success, which you will experience today. And this point leads us to rule number 4. Experience in advance. What's it all about? It means that you experience wanted situations mentally in advance. In this way, you give your subconscious an order, and the more often you pre-experience wanted situations, the larger will get the picture in your subconscious mind, and the clearer the task for your mind becomes. Imagine what you would like to experience in your day. How do you want to react? Which people do you want to meet? Which tasks will you do first? Or which targets do you want to reach today? Who of you know the famous ski racers? What do they do before the race starts? They follow rule number 4. So be like one of them and go through your whole daily routine. Try to imagine it as real as possible. Experience your day mentally in the most successful version. And if you practice this, you will soon find out that it makes a difference, because your subconscious mind is your pilot, and the pre-experience defines its destination. And last but not least, rule number 5, a mindful step. If you did the rules 1 to 4, you will have noticed that you have created positive feelings. And you also have instructed your pilot regarding your wanted destination. And now it's time to go out of bed. And this should be made in a very mindful way. You all probably know Hermann Hesse's quote, "And in every beginning there is a magic which protects us and helps us to live." Yes, every morning is also a new beginning, which offers new opportunities and ways. And in this awareness, you should step out and set your foot on the ground consciously. Be aware that all is good and try to feel the emotion of gratitude and joy. And you can also say to yourself, "I am at the right time, at the right place." Or, "I love my life and my life loves me." Or whatever you're comfortable with. And doing so, you will have a more successful start. And by the way, it's less likely to bump your toe by setting your foot consciously. Do these rules make sense to you? Do you give them a try? Do you think they will help you filling the right bowl in your body? I'm convinced they will. Do you even remember them all? What will you do tomorrow morning? Or now? I see my friend Chris is already sleeping again. Please, come on, let's wake him up with our 5 golden rules. Number 1, we wake him up and make him smile. Number 2, we bless him for being so attentive. And number 3, we invite him to be thankful. thankful to have heard such an inspiring talk. And now we pre-experience the next hours. For my part, I will have an interview about this talk. And you? And now let's fulfill missing rule number 5. Please make your mindful step. Thank you for your attention.
Yes. Thank you again. Please, another round of applause for Daniel.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely didn't fall asleep. Super interesting.
Thank you.
Cool. So we have a few questions for you.
Okay.
And the first question is, right, so you've worked for 13 years. You worked in the logistics management. And what was this moment where you realized that you really need change in your life?
Yeah, I felt a little bit under-challenged, and I missed the sense or the meaning of this job. And I did 13 years in the logistic departments in different companies. And I asked myself if I would like to stay in this job for another 30 years. But also there was this question, is there any purpose which is greater in life? Yeah, and that brought me to the mental training.
Cool. Yeah, I fully understand that. But how did you implement that change? Was it kind of did a hard stop and straight away?
No, it was a soft stop. I went into this mental training and did the diploma. And afterwards I quit the job and grow business in mental training.
Cool. So you told us the five rules, right? The 5 golden rules. Were first smiling.
Yeah.
Then to be blessed or to bless yourself, to be thankful, and then be thankful. And then the fourth step, the fourth step was
experience in advance.
Exactly, to experience in advance, like a ski racer.
Yeah.
And the last being a mindful step. Do you also do those steps every morning now, or do you just preach it?
Not every morning anymore, but I do them. Yeah, I did them quite often in the past, and I will do them in the future.
And right, we had a discussion before that you kind of said, if you do them for 30 days afterwards, you might not even have to do them every morning because you're already in this routine of doing it anyway.
I recommend if you do the rules to make it 30 days long, and then you will create a kind of ritual, and you are programming your subconscious mind as well.
Cool. Would you say that now you've found your purpose and what you're doing now really fills you with joy?
Yeah, I would say so, because this is the topic where I'm in and what I love.
Another question I have is, what were you thankful for this morning?
This morning?
Yes.
To have my wife beside me and to know that my children are healthy, and
Cool. We have some questions from the chat. And the one I actually think is super interesting is, would the smile trick, right, the step 1, would it work also for a person that uses smiling as kind of a way to hide their other emotions?
What do you mean exactly?
I think what the person means is when she maybe feels scared or insecure, that she smiles.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a way that she copes with those emotions.
Yeah.
Would this also work for her?
Yeah, it will have an impact on your emotions and also on your behavior afterwards. Yeah.
Another question that came was, do you have recommendations on ending the day, right? You spoke a lot about now starting the day, but do you also have something to end the day?
Yes, sure. You should calm down yourself before you go to bed. There are different ways to do that. For me, meditation is the way for calming myself down. And you also you shouldn't watch TV or watch the phone. Yeah.
Do you have any example of meditation, or is it a traditional meditation, or how would you do that?
There are different kinds of meditation. I have created my own. There are special music, which I like, and so I calm myself down, and then I go to sleep.
Cool. Then we have another question. Are there any books you would recommend for a new starter?
Of course. One book I've read was the top 5 regrets of dying. It was a kind of game changer in my life, because the perspective of life changes instantly. And yeah.
So, right, it's probably all about that. You don't want to regret something if you have the chance to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Great. Let me check my notes again.
I will have a glass of water.
Please, if you have any other questions for Daniel, please send them in the chat. Great. So you also wrote an ebook a while back, Mind Luck.
Yeah.
What is
Mind Luck 13? And there are the best power strategies for creating a strong mindset. Yeah.
You also already want to give us a teaser of the 13, or should we buy the book?
You should download the book and get into it by yourself.
Okay, cool. So definitely not a book recommendation that you have for us. Good. Then if there's no other messages or questions in the chat, then I want to thank you again for the really inspiring talk, and I'll definitely try to adhere to those 5 rules when I wake up tomorrow morning.
Perfect.
And again, please, a big round of applause.
We're going to continue with the next speaker. She is very motivated. Anna Rosenwasser, she is a journalist and a women's rights activist. Because how can you start the day if motivated if you can't even be yourself? Anna, the former co-director of Switzerland's lesbian organization, elucidates on why there is no wrong way to be a woman, and brings attention to life and love in the context of gender and sexual identity. Anna Rosenwasser, everyone.
Isn't it creepy that the moment you're born, strangers will look at your genitalia and immediately start drawing conclusions about you? The colors you will like, the clothes you will wear, the gender you will identify with? Yay, it's a girl. I wasn't never asked, but thank you, stranger. So, yeah, I am a girl, but this shouldn't have been assumed. Many bodies do not fit the typical definitions of male or female, and some people do not identify with the gender they were assigned with at birth. The first person to say whether it's a girl should not be a doctor, but just the girl herself. Within the first seconds we're on this earth, it's already other people who decide the right ways about being a girl, or the wrong ways of being a girl. So within the first years, year by year, girls are being told more rules. They might not look like rules at first. as long as you match the expectations. Pastel pink? It's not a rule. Just a cute look. But don't you dare reject that color. Skirts and dresses? It's not a rule. It's just pretty. But only one gender can be pretty. And soon enough, people will judge the length of your skirt because your looks is their business. Literally. So, prettiness becomes kind of your duty, but it's not only looks. Don't you dare leave the girls section at the toy store. And girls need and boys need to stay in their lane too. We're taught at a very young age that not only do toys have a gender, but also leaving your gender section is not allowed. The closer you get to the concept of woman, the more obvious it becomes how much you can do wrong at just being one. I mean, at some point you can at least earn the money to buy your own toys, but that's as fun as it gets, and they're expensive. Who would have thought there are just so many ways of just having a body? Don't you ever dare to be fat. The whole health sector will basically dismiss your problems and blame them on your body's shape. The world fears women who take up space. Working out is mandatory, but there's a fine line between being a #fit girl and looking too strong. The world also fears strong women, not only the ones making strong decisions, but also the ones who prefer to look strong. Those lesbians. Ah yeah, lesbianism. It's a very specific wrong way of being a woman. It's my favorite. As women, we're not exactly encouraged to like each other in general, but liking women is even worse. If you're a woman experiencing attraction and it just feels right, you can be sure that there's a rule about it somewhere, condemning it as wrong. A question I often get is, but if it's two women in a relationship, who of them is supposed to be the man? I don't know, the one earning 20% more, I guess? So, if a woman is not in a romantic relationship with a guy, who is she supposed to marry? As of today, Switzerland still hasn't legalized gay marriage. My personal reason why I want to marry my girlfriend is just so I can call her my wife, because as long as I call her my girlfriend, people will just assume we're just friends. Yeah, the power of friendship. Having that friendship bond, sharing a friendship bed, making out in a very friendly way. Seriously though, while many men in Western culture can't even hug without being called homophobic slurs, the sexual orientation of women loving women is not taken seriously. It's like our perception of attraction revolves around being attracted to men. We even grow up with the notion that it's not real sex as long as there isn't a man involved. Believe me, it is. So, not only are we supposed to be in a relationship with a man, and only one, and get married, because that's what people have been doing for the past 1400 years, so it must be right. But also, we're expected to have a certain kind of family. Not any kind of family with people you love, but specifically the kind of family where you as the woman have babies. The older I get, the more and more people ask me why I don't have kids. And it's just such a strange question to ask women. do you also ask me about other decisions I don't make? Why aren't you running a vegan bakery? Why aren't you the bass player of a pop punk band? Sounds lovely, but no thanks. Ask me about my plans, not my non-plans. We usually don't do that. We just do it to women who don't have kids. All in all, being a woman is society telling you, just be yourself, but not like that. We're either not feminine enough or too girly. We're either prudes or sluts, either basic bitches or not like other girls. How many times have I been complimented with, "You're not like other girls"? Dude, I want to be like other girls. Girls are amazing. If someone tells you you're not like other girls in a complimentary way, what is it they're really saying? That other girls are dumb and you're the exception? That's a competition we never subscribe to. I want girls to be as diverse as galaxies and still be like other girls. Girls who are questioning what's considered feminine, and girls who are super feminine and still smashing those sexist rules. The traditional way to be a woman should be one option among many. And if that's not the case, tradition is just peer pressure by dead people. So first, they tell me it's a girl without even asking. Then I'm supposed to strive for goals I can never achieve. And if I then dare to embrace my own womanhood and to define my ways of femininity, to say, yeah, I'm a girl, and constantly find out what that means to me, society gets scared. Which parts of womanhood are you scared of? Which parts of femininity are you rejecting? After looking for all the right ways to be a woman, I found a truth. There's no wrong way to be a woman. Spoiler alert, there's also no wrong way to be a guy. There's no wrong way to embody a gender, basically. Rules about gender are all made up. I will fight those rules till no one tries to compliment us anymore with, "You're not like other girls." I will question the rules till genitals of babies are just left alone. And I will abolish those rules till there are no gender sections in toy stores anymore, but gender is the playground. I will fight the rules, what it means to be a woman, side by side with women who are just like me and nothing like me, till everyone knows there is no wrong way to be a woman. That's it.
Thank you again for your super interesting talk. Please, again,
Thank
a round
you.
of applause for Anna. Great. Right, but before you became kind of an activist, you worked in journalism, and I'm super interested in how did that change happen? How did you move from journalism, reporting on things, right, to really making the change?
It was certainly not planned. In German we would say, "Ich bin gerutscht." I slided just without a plan, but the
Slid
reason
into
why I started as a journalist is that I wanted to write. I loved writing as a kid and a teenager, and I didn't really expect journalism to be also very social. I was very naive, but that's the job of a teenager, right? So I started being a journalist, and I absolutely loved it. Oh my God. And I was a journalist for 10 years, and I loved diving into topics that I started out knowing nothing about and really go deep. And while doing so, I discovered just queer activism, so activism of people whose sexual orientation or gender identity or gender expression do not fit the traditional norm, right? And I loved it. I found so many friends, and I felt it felt so powerful and empowering as well. Before that, I could never imagine myself like talking in front of people or teaching something to other people. I was far away from what I expected myself to be. And after the second studies I did, which was political science, there was the job of the director of the Swiss lesbian organization, and we joked about that because it was such a ridiculous grown-up job, right? My friends were like, "Yeah, I'm not. You should apply," and it was like, "Yeah," and then I applied and got the job. So
well, you really did slid into it.
well, I did apply. So this is how I got into being professionally gay, and I can highly recommend it. I mean, I can highly recommend being gay, but I can highly recommend doing it as a job.
And then I guess, probably, it changed. So what were your new kind of roles in that job, coming from journalism? Because to be honest, for me, it's hard to understand or to picture what exactly this job would be, right?
Well, yeah, the way I described it also doesn't, I mean, what can you... what changed definitely was before I was expected to be as unbiased as possible. I mean, of course, I don't think as a human being it's possible to not be biased about something you've heard of. But as a journalist, I was always trying to be as unbiased as humanly possible, which sometimes was hard for me because I used to work at a very conservative newspaper, and this was not the political stance I had as a being, as a person, as an individual. So this is one thing, because afterwards I had this main task of being very biased and tell other people why that is so. But something else that changed is I also got into touch, people got into touch with me who were looking up to people who were like out and proud, not only as someone who's bisexual like me, but also as a proud feminist, talking to other people. And this was definitely new. As a young journalist, I always talked to people older than me who treated me like I knew worse, which was not always the case. And later, I also talk to people of all generations who like respect me more than as a young woman in journalism, definitely.
So is there any kind of activist around the world that you really look up to?
Yeah, definitely. All of them, basically. But I specifically look up to everyone in the trans community and trans activists who have keep highly influencing me on my view on gender and power dynamics and politics. It's definitely it's specifically trans activists who inspire me the most.
We have some questions from the chat. So the first one is, what message do you want to give to the next generation?
It might sound super cliche, but definitely you're not alone. You're part of a community who is happy to have you. And you can reach out and you will be very welcome, and you will find many different wonderful kinds of families and chosen families.
So it's all about finding the right communities. It's not about having to change yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool. The next one we have is: have you ever considered calling her your wife anyway? Right, kind of without marriage, kind of as a way of getting around another inappropriate rule.
That's a good question. It feels like lying because it is, right? I sometimes call her my future wife, but like in private. But yeah. No, not yet. Maybe I should start doing that so people will stop assume we're friends. I can like a few weeks ago I had this phone call and it was about my household and I live with my girlfriend and the person on the other end kept calling her my Kollegin, which is like a Swiss German word for less than a friend, and I kept calling her my Freundin, which means girlfriend. I'm pretty sure the person wasn't doing that on purpose, but it felt terrible, and maybe it wouldn't have happened if I just started lying and call her my wife.
Do you ever get angry, sad, or any other kind of, I guess, negative emotion if you discuss or talk with someone that just really doesn't get your point and doesn't get what you stand for?
To me, that is a very important question because obviously the answer is yes, right? So what I do is I spend a lot of time within the community to get all the energy that is needed when existing outside of it. People love to say you need to step out of your bubble, you need to step out of your comfort zone, as if it always was something healthy. But if the outside of your comfort zone and the outside of your bubble is people who do not respect you as an individual, this is not an area I would suggest spending a lot of time in. I always work and live by the rule, pick your battles. I would gladly spend a lot of time with people who agree with me on like basic human rights, and then maybe specifically decide on who is worth my energy when it comes to topics like this because they're close to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what advice, I guess it's kind of a similar question, is what advice do you have for boys or girls who don't have this support system in their families or friends or even their work kind of around them, and how do they get comfortable?
So something many people do not know is in Switzerland, in all areas of the country, there are queer communities and you can always reach out to them. Of course, you can Google the stuff and everyone will. I don't even have to say that. Of course, people are Googling the stuff, especially if they kind of suspect they might be part of the stuff they're Googling. But the internet is not meeting people. It's not the same. I'm a huge fan of the internet, obviously, but it's not everything. And gladly enough, there are groups and communities within the whole country and in the whole world where you can experience the fact that people like you are not only part of the internet, but also the same room you're in. So I can highly recommend that. It's amazing. And also go to prides. Even if you're not sure whether you're part of the community, Pride is for everyone. As soon as they can take place again, I recommend to everyone, even people who are sure that they happen to be very traditional in their sexual orientation and gender identity, go there, experience the vibe. It's eye-opening and heartwarming.
Cool. So one thing you mentioned in your talk was, right, that you really like talking about your plans and not about, right, things you can't change. Are there any plans you have right now that you want to share with us?
I mean, I could change the plans that I was talking about. I mean, I could change my plan not to have kids, but I don't want to. So my plans now are, I'm changing from being the director of the lesbian organization, co-director, to being a freelancer. So now I will work independently as a writer, columnist. I also give workshops around gender, about the linguistic parts of gender, how to make language more inclusive. Yeah, so this is definitely a plan, and I will dive into it with all naivete that I had as a teenager, I guess.
I guess it's super exciting, right, to move forward and to go into the next steps.
Yeah, exciting is the right euphemism.
We just got one other comment about the wife question. Maybe you could get around with it by not by lying, but just using partner. the suggestion?
So in German, Partnerin is more clear than Freundin, because in German we have friend, and as soon as there's a possessive word, my friend, it becomes the romantic relationship, which is really weird if you think about it. Like, if it's just a friend, it's friendship, but if it's mine, that's just problematic. So yeah, I started calling her my Partnerin. In German, I feel like I'm 42 when I say that, but like a happy 42-year-old.
Happy to, yeah. At least happy, right?
Yeah. Also a plan of mine to become a happy 42-year-old with a partner.
There you go. I would like to go back to, in general, right, the being an activist. Do you think there's important, maybe some rules or anything you should adhere to, right? Coming from this being fully non-biased journalism, and then afterwards maybe, right, it being okay to have some sort of bias in it. Do you think there's any important steps or important things you can't forget to really kind of be, I guess, a good activist?
Definitely not to be on your own. I said earlier that you're not alone, and that also means you shouldn't be alone, especially as an activist. Work with other people, collaborate with other people. But what I think is especially important keeping in mind is something the German word for is Fehlerfreundlichkeit. Allow yourself and others to make mistakes, because that's the base on which we can learn more and become better in everything. And it sounds very simple, but in activism, sometimes people have a tendency to be very harsh, not only on themselves, but on others. And if we're just scared of making mistakes, we will be blocked, and we will be scared we're not clever and woke enough to be active in any kind of community. So definitely that one. Allow yourself and others to make mistakes, as long as the person is willing to evolve and learn.
I think that's really good advice for anyone that wants to go out there and fight, or I guess maybe not fighting is not the right word, but yeah.
Fighting is the perfect word.
Fighting is the perfect word, okay, to fight for what they stand for. So maybe as a last question, what would you say, just a single person, or actually you just said before that you shouldn't do it as a single person, but if you are a single person, what can they do, or that they can kind of change in order to dissolve those old stereotypical gender roles?
I would say that there are two aspects to that. One aspect is listen to people who are different than you, like listen to trans people, listen to women, listen to non-binary people, listen to gay people, whatever, and take them seriously. Sounds super simple, but it's not done often enough. And the other part, besides listening to people who are different than you, is talk to people who are similar than you. Sometimes we get far too comfortable in the situations where we're with people who are just like us, and if they slip up and they start being mean, we feel too comfortable to say anything. And something you can change, and where you can really spark a change, is not getting too comfortable, but asking, dude, what do you mean by that word? Why did you just use faggot as a slur? And talk to people. Of course, as I said, we should be allowing mistakes, but you don't even give your friends the possibility to evolve and learn if you don't talk to them about the mistakes they make. And it's super tempting to just not say anything. And I highly recommend changing that.
So basically, really, right, having the people around you also not become too comfortable, and also questioning, I guess, people you spend time with, and finding people that you're similar with, but also, right, going outside of your comfort zone, and also seeing maybe other opinions, right?
Definitely.
Great. Yeah. Thank you again. Please, again, a round of applause for Anna.
When he founded Gnehm, a sustainable clothing brand, Gnehm didn't know much about the topic of sustainability. Along with his co-founder, their only goal was to create something different, to stand out in the market and to plant more trees. Now, here we are, 4 years and over 1 million planted trees later. How he got there and what sustainability even is, you may wonder. Find out now in Gnehm's talk.
How difficult is it to be a bit more sustainable? I'm Robin, and I founded together with Niklas 4.5 years ago the Swiss sustainable fashion brand Gnehm. Our concept is quite simple. We plant for every sold product 1 tree. With this simple concept, we could already plant more than 1 million trees. We are now 4.5 years, and we did a lot of work. How we developed our understanding of sustainability, I'm gonna tell you in the next few minutes. The funny thing is, when we started, we didn't think about sustainable production or sustainable products. We more thought it would be cool and nice to plant trees. I mean, to be honest, who doesn't like to plant trees? I was never, and I'm still not today, an eco-freak. I would describe myself as an average person with a great and intense connection to nature. In the many years as a scout, I learned how to live together with nature, how to be in nature, and I just love to be outside. I see what's happening today with climate change, and I mean, you can see it everywhere, but I don't want to look at it in a negative way. I rather want to have an impact on that. And with my brand, I could give already so much back to nature, and this will make me proud forever. So, without money, without any experience, without any knowledge, we started, and we produced our products still in Asia and with not so great materials. And suddenly more and more questions came from customers. They asked us, how can you plant trees and at the same time produce your clothes in Asia with not so great materials? So we felt more and more the responsibility we got with our brand, and we got the feeling, hey, we have to go in another direction. We have to be more sustainable, that we can really also stand behind our brand. But what sustainability means, we, to be honest, didn't have any idea. I talked to many people, friends and family, and many of them told me I should be careful to go into this direction. Sustainability is kind of a hot potato. It can be critical. You can be criticized quite fast. But I thought, how can you have an impact without taking this risk, without going into this direction? For us, it was clear you cannot be perfectly sustainable from beginning on, but the step into the right direction was very important. So where should we position ourselves? We knew we want to go into this direction, and we saw there are already many brands that are very sustainable, but we didn't really like their products. They were quite niche and also very expensive. And so we had these 2 kind of brands. The ones, they are not sustainable at all, but they are cheap and they are for everyone, also nice designs and so on. And on the other side, we have the very sustainable brands, but expensive and very niche. So where we wanted to position ourselves was somewhere in between. We thought, there is our chance, somewhere in between. Still affordable, but more sustainable than most others. But how can we be actually more sustainable? Also there, we talked to many people, and the meanings and understandings of sustainability is very different in all sides. You have the ones, they say, you have to produce with natural fibers. This is the one sustainable way. Others say you have to take recycled synthetic fibers because of the durability. And again, others say you have to produce very close to where you're living. Produce local. This is the most sustainable way. So as you can see, there are many different understandings of sustainability. And we then wanted to make our own picture of sustainability and recognize that it's not about being perfect this or perfect this, it's about going into the right direction. And yeah, I mean, many things can be sustainable in the end, but you have to begin by yourself and going to this direction. I think inspiring is one of the greatest way or greatest tool you can do to implement such a mindset, to go into the right direction. Not the thinking about you have to be perfect, but this one step to go in this direction. If I get forced by someone to do something that I don't really like, I'm going to resist and I don't want to do it at all. But if someone shows me some alternatives and just by doing and inspiring, I get interested and I want to try it out by myself. And who knows, I maybe even like it in the end. My girlfriend, she's almost 100% vegan, but she never forced me to also live so. But she just inspired me while going her way. And I didn't become a vegan because of that, but I eat way less meat today. And this is also absolutely okay for me. So you don't have to be 100% perfect, but going into the right direction, this is very important. That's inspiring, and I think inspiring has a great power. That's what I also want to do. I want to show people it's not so difficult to make small things better, to go into this direction. It starts with very small things. It's like reducing your waste or recycling your waste. Take your own bag to the grocery. And sometimes I have the feeling that people are a bit afraid of being sustainable because it means a lot of things you can't do anymore. But to be a bit more sustainable doesn't mean that you have to change your whole life. I mean, I still drive a car, but I try to drive less car and more often take my bicycle. I still eat meat sometime, but I try to eat less meat. But if I once eat the meat, then I enjoy it much more. And I sometimes still buy a drink in a PET bottle, but I make sure that I more often use my own bottle with tap water in it. So these are the very small things everyone could do without changing the whole life. This is also what we want to do as a company. With our company, we have the great chance, we have big power with a great community in the background to spread out this mindset. We want to inspire as much people as possible. The word sustainability has become a marketing tool in the past years. You can see it everywhere. Every brand is using it for marketing reasons. And to be very honest, also we, Nikin, we use it sometimes as marketing reasons. You might all have already seen advertising from Nikin. Also, we use it there. But I believe and I hope that this word sustainability cannot be used so long for marketing reasons, because this would mean that sustainability has become a new standard. You're not very special anymore because you're sustainable. It's just normal. And if we reach this goal, I think we all made a big step into the right direction. It's also with the tree planting. I have the feeling that in the past years, there are so many tree planters more. Often friends come to me with screenshots on their smartphones and show me, hey, they are also planting trees. If this is not a problem for me, if they are imitating our brand. But I always answer them, no, absolutely not. It's actually the opposite. It's very cool that others as well starting planting trees. And it's actually nice for us that we might have inspired them to also plant trees. So I think our brand, we are not anymore the one with the tree or the one with sustainable clothes anymore. I think we have become a role model. We can inspire many people, and this is great. The more people are going into this direction, the better. And we try to inspire them while just being ourselves and do things that we think is right. You don't have to be perfect to have an impact. And that's the whole message, actually, that I believe that the more people that are living a bit more sustainable have a greater impact in the end than few people that are 100% sustainable. So I don't want to force you to do something, but I hope I could have inspired you a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin, again. And please, another round of applause for this super inspiring talk.
Thank you.
So the first question I have is, right, you started Nikin with one of your really close childhood friends. Do you regret this, or was this one of the best decisions you've made?
I think it was one of the better decisions I made. No, I regret nothing from all these couple of years I've done it now with Nikin. And as you said, my friend, we grew up together, very close, and we always had great times together. We knew we should start at one point a business, but we never expected that it could be such a business. Yeah.
So maybe quite after with this question, one of the questions from the chat is, what would you recommend to kind of young entrepreneurs who maybe come out of university and want to do something?
I think the most important thing you should do, if you have an idea, just start. I think not starting is one of the biggest fails you can do when you want to start your own business. I mean, there are many people that are thinking too much, how can I make my idea perfectly? And they do business plans and everything. And in this part, then you see, oh shit, there's so much work to do, and in the end, you don't do it. So just start. I mean, you see afterwards what's coming, and then you can handle all the problems. But without starting, you don't even have these problems.
Yes, that's true. So another question we have from the chat is, out of kind of all the causes that exist in the world, right? There's a lot of problems that you could tackle. How did you find and how did you decide on that you, I guess, want to make an impact by planting trees?
We didn't really decide on that. I mean, we had this idea, and it just went like that. As I said, we didn't think about sustainability in the beginning. I'm an outdoor freak, and I love to be outside, and I love trees, to be honest. I just wanted to plant trees, but this mindset of sustainability just came after beginning, because also people asked us, hey, how can you plant trees and at the same time produce with bad materials?
Yeah, that's true. So you said, right, you said you were a scout when you were younger, and also, right, an outdoor freak, as you just mentioned. What's your best or most memorable experience from the outdoors?
Oh, that's hard to say. I have many. I went to I would say lager, camps. Yeah. Many scout camps. All my sports I love is outside. I love to snowboard, to skateboard. Now it's getting warmer. My bicycle is already ready, and I have so many great moments outside, and I just feel happy outside. I feel it's a good feeling to walk through a forest, and yeah, I think this makes me free and happy.
Another question that we just got in the chat is, what kind of trees do you plant, and how do you plant them?
If an order comes in, we grab our shovels and go outside and plant trees. No, it's actually not like this. We work together very close with a company, a non-profit company in North America. They're called One Tree Planted, they are very well known today. They started about the same time as we started, and their goal is to make it easy to plant trees. And they collect money from all over the world, from companies, from private persons, and you can give them money, and they make sure that the money is going to the right smaller organizations around the globe, where they plant whatever is needed. But these are organizations that are they are living there, and they know what's needed. You cannot plant a pine tree in Spain or Portugal. You have to plant what is needed there, and they make sure that this is happening.
Someone just asked, what's the biggest tree you ever planted? Do you know which one is the biggest one?
I have no idea, to be honest. No.
You said, right, you want to inspire, and you also are inspired, for example, by your girlfriend, by eating less meat now. Who would you say is one of the person that inspires you the most, and what kind of inspiration does that person give you?
That's always a hard question for me. I don't have really a person that is inspiring me a lot. I mostly look to myself and try to do my best. But a person that I really like is the founder of this One Tree Planted company. He's a great man. He's on the floor. I don't know the word. Bodenständig. But he's
to be honest,
standing on the floor, and he's really doing a great job. And yeah, maybe he's a bit a role model for me.
That's cool. So another question, actually. We're getting a lot of questions. Thank you. And also don't forget to ask even more questions if you have any. But I see that you're wearing your Nikin shoes, which I know right there. They just came out. How was that experience of kind of creating this, right? First from starting out by being questioned about the products, by now going into a complete new sector, which is probably very challenging. How was that experiencing?
Very, very good experience, hard experience. I mean, I didn't have any idea of clothes or products when we started. I was actually once a car mechanic, and I worked some time as a gardener, and I just flew in this whole business, and I had to learn so many things. We started with a simple beanie, a winter hat, and this was pretty easy because there's one size. One logo on it, and it was it. And when we started, then okay, hey, people like it, we should do more. We thought, okay, let's do t-shirts. That's also very easy. But then questions came in, like from the suppliers. What material do you prefer? How big should be this hole? Where would you like to have your tree? And we only thought, make it like you always do it. It's a simple t-shirt. It can not be so hard. But yeah, and this was only the beginning. Now we have everything from shoes, socks, pants, underwear. I'm wearing my underwear, to the hat, everything can I wear now from Nikin.
So what would you say the best decision you made as an entrepreneur is?
Taking the risk, doing it, just starting it. I also was in front of the decision, should I keep doing studying or should I quit and full-time Nikin? And this was one of the hardest decision, but I totally not regret it, because I mean school I can do years after, but Nikin was this one moment where I put everything in, and this was one of the best decisions. Even I loved this school. That is school. It was the only school I liked to go for my whole life. But
you attended here, right? You were also
at FHNW, yeah. But not here. I was in Basel, industrial design.
Cool. So an alumni here. Another topic that you discussed was that the sustainability is really used in a lot of marketing, and I guess the term of greenwashing comes up. What does Nikin do that you really avoid this greenwashing, and how do you ensure that you really are sustainable?
We do a lot that first of all, we are not greenwashing. We just want to be transparent wherever we want. We want to be ourselves and show it to the community. We show everything. We went to the manufacturers. We talk to them. We make sure that they are happy, the employees there, and we want to show everything to the customer. We believe that we as actually almost completely e-commerce brand have a greater connection to our community than many other brands that are in stores. I think this is because of the marketing or the social media we do great. My co-founder Nicholas is genius in this, and he's doing really a great job. And this, yeah, because of that, you can see it everywhere. I made the product, and he did sure that you can see it on the street.
That's cool. And another question just came in. Where would you like to see Nikin in 5 years? Do you have kind of this vision of what Nikin should become?
I want to be the sustainable Nike in the world. No, this is a big goal, but we never set very big goals. It was never expected, and I don't know, we just go forward, do the same thing we did so far, try to do our best, and you don't have to be perfect to have success, just doing the best, and we will see what happens next.
Cool, yeah, thank you very much for this lovely interview. Again, please, big round of applause for Robin from Nikin.
Thank you.
Robin Gnehm is an entrepreneur and co-founder of Nikin. But how does one even become an entrepreneur? How do you make the leap from university to professional life? Döbele, the young professional running the #1 business, studies and career channel in Germany, has taken this to heart and will enlighten us on how easily we can influence our lives, maybe even today. Give it up for Döbele.
Have you ever wondered what the odds are that you're sitting right where you are right now, meanwhile listening to this TED Talk? But not only that, what are the chances that you are precisely the person you are right now, with all your experiences, all the people you know, and all the things you own? If you do not totally understand what I mean, think about these questions. Would you be exactly the same person you are right now if you would have decided to drop out of school after 10th grade and move to Africa to work with an NGO building wells? Or would you know all the people you know right now if you had decided to study in another city, for example? Or would you look exactly the same way right now if you had decided to put on a different t-shirt this morning? I don't think so. There is nearly an infinite amount of different possibilities of how your life could have turned out so far. And to make it even clearer how many possibilities there really are, I want to have you think about this simple example. If you had been able to make one single decision since your 16th birthday per day, then you would already have way over 8 unique scenarios after just 1 week. After 1 month, you would already have over 30 different scenarios, and after 1 year, you would already have over 350 different scenarios. Forget it. So, the thing is, this example is even hopelessly understated. In fact, we do not only make one single decision every day, but dozens of them. It starts when you wake up. Do you choose to hit the snooze button, or do you stand up right away? The next decision comes right ahead. Do you choose to scroll through your feed for 10 minutes and waste your time, or do you choose to do a morning routine that truly benefits you? The same way, small and big decisions are threaded throughout your day. You see, my previous example, I don't know if you can see it right now, here, shouldn't be labeled with days, but rather with hours or even minutes. I think you're starting to understand where I'm going with this. If you think about, you would always have chosen the most optimal option for all the couple of years before. Then you would obviously be the best possible version of yourself today. I'm afraid, though, that no one can really say with full confidence that they've always acted optimally, and that's totally fine. If you picture all the possible scenarios that you could have achieved so far, with your life improving decisions pointing upwards and your life rather worsening decisions pointing downwards, where do you think you are at this very moment? How much percentage of your potential have you filled out so far? I think most people will say that they are at around 60 to 70%. It's not perfect, but 2 out of 3 decisions are totally on point, and every third decision could have been done a little bit more better. What I want to achieve with today's talk is to light the fire in each and every one of you to always thrive for making the best decisions for yourselves from now on. You cannot turn back the past, but you can make sure that when you think about this TED Talk again in 2 years, you can say, wow, the last 2 years were a really good streak. I did significantly more to improve my life than in the 2 years before that. Right now, there are about infinite possibilities open to you. One possibility could be that you start your own startup that is already worth over $10 million by the end of next month. Of course, this scenario to happen requires making a lot of right decisions, but it's definitely within the realm of possibilities. Another scenario would be that you, let's say, lost 4 pounds by the end of next month. Again, this scenario is totally within the realm of possibility and probably way more likely than the last one. You see, you can achieve nearly anything. And all you have to do is set the course which scenario will happen with your daily choices. Now, there are 2 types of choices. The first type of choices are choices for goals, where it's not totally clear what choices are the right ones in order to achieve that goal. These are usually goals where also luck plays a minor role. For example, with our previous example with a startup that is worth over $10 million by the end of next month, it's not that obvious which choices are the right one in order to achieve that goal. I mean, one right decision could be that you enroll in a coding bootcamp today, and then next week you meet up with some brilliant Harvard students, and then you get one of their ideas programmed, and maybe you will have a startup that is worth $10 million by the end of next month, but it's not obvious. And I don't even want to get into those choices right now. What I want to get into are the second types of choices we make all day long. These are the choices where it's pretty obvious to all of us, at least after a couple of minutes of thought, what the right choice is. For example, our other example with losing 4 pounds within a week or within a month. It's pretty clear what we have to do. We need to exercise more, and we need to eat more healthy food and overall probably less calories than we burn. So when we have to decide whether we take the stairs or the elevator, it's clear that we have to take the stairs. If we decide between eating a burger or a salad, it's pretty obvious that we eat the salad. It's that simple. And the same principle applies to numerous other daily choices. We should be kind to those around us. We shouldn't directly speak what pops into our head, but be aware of the consequences first. We shouldn't waste too much time in meaningless activities like binge watching and so on. Just imagine that for the past couple of years you would have always chosen the right option when deciding between this and that. How great would your life be? How much could you have improved yourself? However, even in such apparent positions where it's pretty clear which choices are the right ones, we often tend to go for the one that will lead us to a worse me in the future instead of the one that will lead us to a better me in the future. This is mostly because oftentimes, unfortunately, the worse option is the one that is simply more comfortable for us. Evolution has drilled into us that we think that we survive the longest if we always choose the path of least resistance and don't waste any energy unnecessarily. And as Neanderthals, that made total sense. I mean, it was much more smarter to order a calorie-dense burger from a fast food chain instead of going for a hunt and be probably killed by a mammoth. Today, however, we probably will not be killed if we resist our urge to go for the comfortable option that is associated with the most dopamine release, but instead focus on the option that will lead us to a better me in the future. We just have to force ourselves to do that. So, how can we do that? The first thing I would recommend to each and every one of you is to recall this picture as often as possible. It's best to hang it over your bed so you can have a look at it in the morning when you wake up and in the evening before you go to sleep. And always remember, every day counts, every decision counts. If you waste one day with choosing the wrong option instead of the right option, you cannot reach your optimal potential in the future. Another thing I would recommend to each and every one of you is to keep yourself accountable. That means, for example, start filling an Excel sheet with all the daily choices and to-dos you have to do in order to achieve your goals. For example, not hitting the snooze button, doing a good morning routine, meditating, working out, being kind to other people, eating healthy, and so on. And then every evening, you go through your Excel and you make a check mark behind every to-do you fulfilled. By doing that constantly, you build up more and more momentum, and at the same time, you will be frustrated if you haven't done your checks. And the thing is, those kind of choices are far more common than the other kind of choices. Those are the choices we make all day long, and by systematically trying to put in more and more of your daily choices into that Excel sheet, and in the evening, always trying to check all the sheets, you will improve yourself significantly. By doing that, you will already have achieved the best result for 80 to 90% of your overall decisions. The remaining few decisions where there is no default correct option, these are the choices that distinguish the best from the very best. And here I cannot tell you what the right choices are, because it always depends on individual factors. What tip I would like to give you for those kind of choices is that you always have to think about which option will help me fulfill more of my type 2 choices. For example, when you think about buying a brand new Mercedes or a used Toyota, and you don't have that much money, it makes far more sense to go with the Toyota, because with all the money you have left, you can make sure that you, for example, fulfill your healthy nutrition goals and have enough money for buying good quality food, for example. But it's also totally fine to make the wrong decisions sometimes, because after all, if you do it consciously, this is what makes life also so worth living, because it's unplannable and interesting. Finally, I just want you to make more conscious decisions, more right decisions, and that you don't waste too much of your time with meaningless, unconscious decisions. Thank you.
Hey David, thank you for making the decision to be here tonight, and thank you for your interesting talk. Again, please, another round of applause for David.
Thank you also for deciding to invite me.
No worries. Definitely was not the wrong decision. You spoke about, right, reaching potential, right?
Yes.
You have this the picture, which is really shows how big of an effect even simple or a lot of decisions can have. Where are you? Right, you said between 60 and 70%, but where are you?
I actually say between 60 and 70%. I think I did some things good, but maybe it's even lower than 60 to 70%, because I now, with all my experiences, if I look back, I would do so many things differently. So I would say, 50 to 60%. Much more potential.
And how do you take really challenging decisions then, right? Because that means that probably your process, right, of taking those decisions is also not perfect yet. But how do you do that?
Well, I often go with my gut, to be honest, because I think slowly I've got those usual decisions sorted out, that they are good, but with more and more time, you get always more decisions where you do not know what the exact answer is. So I either go with my gut, or second thing is I go with mentors. So if someone has already made the decision and knows, okay, this is good, this is bad, it's always good to learn from them.
So you would say it's not actually always important to fully only base your decisions on reason, but also on a gut feeling or
Yes.
advice.
Because I think also gut is kind of reason. I mean, of course, you have to know how your gut functions. So you have to know how evolution works a little bit. But if also your gut feeling somehow has its reason, I think.
Mm-hmm. So I guess this question is probably being asked quite often, but what's been your best decision you've made? And also on the opposite, what's been the worst decision you've made? And what did you learn out of it?
I think my best decision actually was starting with my YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And it probably also was my worst decision because I did so many things wrong. Like, I wasted so much time with stupid things that I wouldn't have done now if I think about it, because I did YouTube for 3 years before I did a company with it. I did it just because I had, well, maybe it's a good idea, but I didn't fully plan it through. So it was my best and worst decision, I guess.
So yeah, maybe to speak about your YouTube channel, what is the purpose of it? What do you want to achieve with it?
I want to help students also fulfill their full potential. Because in today's job search, especially in job search, there's so much information. The information is really asymmetric. Mm-hmm. So if you do not know everything about all available jobs, very likely you will not get into that job that perfectly fits to you. Because there may be another job that fits better to you, but you don't know about that. And I want to help students have the option to get nearly every job they want to get. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to do.
So maybe to go for a question from the chat,
Sure.
What is the best advice for students who are graduating?
Depending on your experience, I would suggest to internships, because there are so many different interesting fields of work that you can do nowadays, that you have to find out with internships what your interests really are.
Mm-hmm. So you spoke about decisions and about making the right decisions. What if you're scared of making a decision, right? Because every decision can go both ways. It can either be
Mm-hmm.
worse or better. Would you still say that making a lot of decisions will bring you forward, even if maybe some of them are the wrong ones?
I think it's better to do a lot of decisions where the wrong decisions don't weigh so much, instead of just doing a few decisions but keeping the absolute of the wrong decision the same.
Yeah, I guess everyone strives to do that, right? Another question from the chat would be, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in really your professional life, right? Also with starting Pumpkin careers as a startup, what were the biggest challenges you faced?
Well, one big challenge obviously was to go from your just a all-day hustler to building up a team, for example, to start having employees who do certain tasks, because you always think, I can do it myself better, but you have to do that in order to grow. That was one very hard decision. And with that also come hard decision if one of your employees also doesn't reach his potential in that certain role, and you might have to let him go. That's also one of the hardest decisions so far.
So it's really about kind of learning to delegate and how to run a
Yes,
team. That's been the
yes,
hardest.
yes.
Another question we have, which is, I guess, a bit of a silly one, is: do you drive a Mercedes?
Actually, yes, since a couple of weeks. But it's not that I decided between a Mercedes and a old Toyota, because it's just a leasing, so it's not my own.
Another one would be: what motivates you? What gives you the drive to work as much as you do?
I think it's kind of boring if you don't, because I'm young, I'm full of energy, so why shouldn't I do everything I can to help as many people and to change as many lives as possible? Of course, someday I think I will work less and don't be motivated at all, but right now I'm seeing the results from my work every day. So I think it would be selfish not to keep on working.
So Pumping Career also helps students with the job applications. Would you have some tips or some guidelines of what you really should do in your job application that it's a good one?
Well, it should be so serious about it. It should be the most serious thing you have ever done, in my opinion, because people spend so much time in school, 12 to 10 years, depending on where you study. Then if they go to university, they spend 3 to 6 years in university. And that's all dedicated to getting into a job. And then they spend 20 minutes doing a CV that's okay-ish and a cover letter that's worse than okay-ish, and they think, oh, it's okay. But you have to take it even more seriously. Bad grades don't matter that much. It's much more how you do it in your application. And people tend to overlook the importance of that whole process of application, because what I see every day is that when you know how to do it, if you perform good in the interviews, you can make up so much for past mistakes, for example, that I just find it sad if people don't put in so much time in that.
So it's really just prioritizing it as well, because
Yes.
it is the one thing that you send to the company, so it's the first impression that you
Exactly.
that you
It's
give
the
them.
only thing they see from you.
And it's probably also the only, it must be the only thing that they base their decision on if they
Yes.
invite you for an interview or not. Another question that we just got in the chat is: how do you not dwell on past mistakes? And also, I guess that goes hand in hand, is: are you scared that you maybe won't reach your full potential one day?
I'm not scared, because I think it's a ride, and I also think that there is, it seemed like in my talk that there really is a full potential, but I think that there is no total limit. Of course, you can do better always, but I think you can always do better. So there's no 100%. So I think right now I'm on a rather good streak. It's way not perfect, but it's getting better and better. And I know that I will, even when I work straight for 50 more years and do everything right, I could still go way over the top. So I'm not scared of not fulfilling that, because I know it has no top.
No ceiling, yeah.
No ceiling, right?
But does this also not make it quite challenging? Because there is no ceiling, right? There is not this clear goal, right? You just always want more, I guess.
Yes, I think you have to get over a certain potential compared to other people. But you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. But you should get to a level where you're comfortable with yourself. Because I know, a lot of people, they say, oh, why do you work so much? Why do you keep those students pushing? But I mean, the other types of students who go party all day long, they don't study, they don't do internships at all, oftentimes they aren't happy then later on if they are in a job they don't like, and so on. So I think you should get to a level where you're comfortable with yourself, where you say, okay, now I'm happy, and from then on, yeah, you can keep on pushing, but you can also relax a little bit.
So I guess, right, because then the question comes up of this work-life balance, right? That maybe sometimes you should maybe also focus more sometimes on life and on work. And where do you set that for yourself, the work-life balance?
Well, for me, right now, there's no big difference, to be honest, because it's just what I do. Like, is it life or is it work right now? I mean, for me, it's life because it's a quite interesting experience. I learned a lot because I've never done a talk. I did a ton of videos, but they are in German. So when I had to prepare for this talk in English, it was quite challenging. But also it's kind of work. So for me, there's no big difference. I understand that for some people who are in a job, they don't fully feel that it's the perfect job where they really excel. There's like a difference between work and life. And there, yeah, you have to prioritize. I think you have to still prioritize life because you don't live to work, but you work to live.
So you said that, right, most people are able to kind of make good decisions, but making really great decisions is quite tough. Do you have, and you say that it's hard and you can't really help, but do you have some pointers of how to really take those challenging
I think we already discussed it kind of earlier. I think gut and mentors, because it's maybe also a little bit because it's kind of what I'm doing myself with my company. If there's someone else who had the same challenges and he also had to choose, do I do this or do I do this? And he chose this path and he reached the goal. Then probably if you're in the exact same position and you use this option, you will probably also reach the goal. So always look for people who have done something that you want to do and then go ahead. I mean, the same way with my losing 4 pounds example. Maybe the first person who tried to lose weight, he also didn't knew how it works. But then hundreds of and thousands of people, they figured out how to do it, and then you would just follow them, and it becomes more and more clear. Maybe someday it will be that obvious how to have a startup that is worth $10 million by the end of next month, but it's not happening right now. So, yeah.
Cool. So maybe as a last question, do you have anything for really university students or anyway students that want to start their own thing? Do you have any tip? How do you do it?
Move fast, break things.
Break things, okay.
Yes, because that's something I moved so slowly. That's one of my biggest regrets, that I just didn't move faster.
Great, yeah. Thank you very much on that. Again, please, big round of applause for David.
Thank you.
David urged you to make decisions in his talk, and someone who has already made thousands of decisions in milliseconds is Urs Meier. The former football referee and current head of Swiss referees will take you on his journey of how to learn to overcome the fear of taking difficult decisions. Please welcome Urs Meier.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I never received applause before I started the game. That's why it's very happy to be here with real people here in the audience and also with real people behind the screen. I'm going to speak about decision under pressure. Between the front lines, cause in the crossfire. And I know, and I'm sure, also you have to make decisions, and also you are under pressure. But before I started my speech, we go back in the past. And it's always good you know the history, but it's so much better you learn something from the history. We go back in 2002, it was the decision which country can be the next World Cup, the host for the next World Cup. And it was in South Korea when Sepp Blatter, the former FIFA president, opened the envelope and read Germany. And he was a little bit surprised and shocked because he expected South Africa. And the World Cup went to Germany, and how the Germans are, they created immediately a famous slogan, "Zu Gast bei Freunden," or in English, "Time to make friends." And we ask ourselves, who can that be? And then we enjoyed the best World Cup ever. And I say this also in the year 2021, after Russia, after Brazil, after South Africa, it was the best World Cup ever. And who was responsible for this World Cup? Was it the referees, the players, the impressive modern and fantastic stadiums? Was it Franz Beckenbauer? Who was it? In the end, it was the people. It was the Germans. People like you who carried this great spirit, this happiness, friendliness in the whole world, and that's why we speak about the best World Cup ever. But meanwhile, we have also the European Championship here in Switzerland and also a little bit in Austria, and I think we made it well. And when the German team only played in Switzerland, they would be the next European champion. But unfortunately, they lost one time to many in Austria, and it's over. But there always are people, there will always people around us who make important decisions, like presidents, coaches, players, like referees, who make the difference in this world. Sepp Herberger once said, "A place runs 90 minutes." Sepp Herberger, it's not anymore with us. The place don't run 90 minutes. They run often 95, 96, 97 minutes. For one time too long, for the other time too short. And also here, as referee, you cannot make the correct decision, but you have to make it. A referee make more or less 215 until 300 decisions per game, visible or invisible. And these decisions should be fair. We speak a lot about fair play, not only in football, in sport life, also in business life, in private life. What is the meaning of fair play? What means fair play? Fair play is something really easy, something really simple. If a German people helps a Dutch people, or a Swiss people helps a German people, then we speak about fair play. But fair play also is a principle which takes into account the feelings, the opinions, the view of others, of other people, of other competitor. If my actions have a negative effect on my family, friends, partners, then I haven't applied the principle of fair play. Fair play contains a number of values which are fundamental to sports, but also to everyday life. It means respect, friendship, team spirit, fair competition, tolerance, care, joy, and solidarity. It's important to support each other, share feelings, aims, and dreams. Rivalry on the field doesn't exclude friendship. On the contrary, friendship could grow from a noble rivalries. Fair play is an attitude. Whenever we act in the spirit of fair play, we contribute to building a peaceful and better world. Fair play is an essential part of successful development in both sport and life. Leaders, managers, and executives who follow the principle of fair play always succeed in a long run. These values can easily be expressed in the interaction of everyday life. And now we go back to the football. We go now together to the Euro 2004 in the quarterfinal, and you have to now to change your role. You're not anymore leaders in your business, at home, in the clubs, or whatever. You are now a referee, a football referee, not an assistant, a referee. And you can imagine, it's Friday night, 10 p.m. We have 32 degrees, a wonderful summer night in Portugal, in Lisbon. We are in the European quarterfinal. England, the homeland of football, versus Portugal, the homeland of this European Championship. We have 30,000 English fans in the stadium, 30,000 English fans, a wonderful atmosphere. You are the referee, you stand there. You have run forward, backwards, you have sprints, stops, and you have in your legs more or less 12 until 14 kilometers, means 7.5 until 8.5 miles. And you have a pulse rate from 160. You stand there, we are in the 90th minute, it's 1-1, and you know it will be dangerous, because on the left-hand side, David Beckham will execute a free kick, and you know from your experience, when he makes something really good, then is execute free kicks. So pay attention, and like in the Formula 1, you don't see the speed. So you don't perceive, you don't feel, you don't have you don't see this speed also in football. Pay attention. Execution of the free kick. He comes in the penalty area, from then in the crossbar, from the crossbar back, and then Campbell goes up in the air, 2.5 meters, and scored the 2-1 for England. And you know from your experience, I had 27 years experience in this time, you know exactly something it's not correct. Your intuition, your stomach say, hey, something is wrong, something is wrong. And after this experience, I trust my stomach, I trust my intuition, and whistled and cancelled this goal. And after important decisions, and this is an important decision, follow smaller decisions. But there is also a slogan in the referee's life. A good referee whistled faster than the crowd or the spectators. And after important decision, things are not over. The contrary, after important decisions, there will come other decisions, more smaller decisions, but they can be also dangerous and more important. Here we speak about the moment of surprise. This very moment is the key to success. This moment can change everything in sport and as well in business. Do we apply the unique moment of surprise in our daily life, in our daily decisions? Or do we tell ourselves everything is in order, everything is okay? The other act in the same way, the other do the same things. Why should we do or change something? To use the tactic of surprise or the surprise move. And no decision is a decision as well. And we are not only responsible for that what we are do, we are also responsible for that what we are not do. And leaders, directors and managers, and we are here to help and support people to make decisions. 0 or 100, yes or no. There are not 50% penalties and no 70% goals, yes or no. And if we don't make decisions, doing things effectively take much longer in business and also in private life. In football, there is immediately a formation of a pack. Wild animals are catering for a meeting, Rudelbildung. And the game manager leads a game and don't only whistle. A director leads and manages a business and doesn't only whistle. Anyone can whistle, but to guide, to lead, and to show the way, it takes the people who are endure something. Who are stress residents, who are echt, merkwürdig in German. Remember worthy. Management people have to be genuine. They have to be strange. Who has not a strange boss or a strange partner at home? The German word merkwürdig, translated into English as strange, is slightly convected with a small negative touch, evoking that something is wrong. The word merkwürdig can be separated in two different words, remember and worthy. When you take the second word to the front, then you have the meaning worthy to remember or to be worthy to be noticed, like Jürgen Klopp, Oliver Kahn, Pierluigi Collina. And of course, the best decision is nothing, just zero and nothing worse if we don't push in through. With each decision you want to push or enforce, someone else whistled. Someone else is blowing the whistle. But the sooner and clearer you do it, the less people whistled. Decision must be enforced and pushed through. And of course, we have to like people. What is the main task for a referee? If I would ask the referees, they wouldn't know it either. The main task of a referee is to protect the player from the opponent and to protect him from themselves. The main task of a leader, of a manager, is to protect his employers, his friends, his family, and this company. These are the main tasks. I have to show the people that I'm there for them, that I protect them, that I perceive them, that I make no difference whether they have white or black skin color, regardless whether they are Christians, Muslim, Hindus, or have no religions, whether they come from ex-Yugoslavia, Turkey, North America, North Africa, Arabia, Asia, Syria, Switzerland, Austria, Sweden, where they come from. Only then I can lead and guide. But alas, if they not feel protected, not perceived, marginalized, discriminated, then I cannot anymore lead and guide. To like people and to show you love them. And of course, we need a vision, a mental energy. When I started my career in 1977, the first thing I got pushed in my hand was a questionnaire with a simple question. What is your goal? A simple question. I wrote down, my goal is to be a football referee at the Football World Cup 1998. Not sometimes, 1998. Not as something, as a football referee. On the 21st of June 1998, I was the referee in the World Cup game USA-Iran in the Stade de Gerland in Lyon. I got it, finally. Visions without actions are dreams. Actions without visions are a waste of time. But visions and actions together can change the world. We need always both. I wish you that you have actions, that you have visions, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Urs, for your super interesting talk. Please, again, a round of applause for Urs Meier.
Thank you.
So the first question that comes to mind is, were you always good at making decisions, or did really football and by being a soccer referee really help you get the skill of making fast and good decisions?
Of course, you have to make decisions as a football referee, and that helps you also in your life, in your in all the things. And I think it's very important for a leader, for a manager, to make decisions. This is a part of his job.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that you are handling family or kind of private decisions similar than you handle decisions on the field?
It's difficult. At home, At home, what might get at home? No, at home it's more difficult as on the football field. On the football field, you have clear rules, you have clear directives, you have clear advices. So it's much easier on the football field at home. At home, something that has other suspects, and yeah, of course, you know your wife, you know your children, and sometimes it's difficult, more difficult. Yeah.
Right, football is a sport which right, there's a lot of emotions also from the fan side. And has there ever been moments in your career where maybe one side thought that you made the wrong decision, and maybe you've even been threatened or also regretted the decision that you ever made?
Yeah, of course. After the game, of course, I'm regretted for the decisions. For example, in Basel, I made a big mistake when I was injured. I was a long time injured, and I came too early on the back on the field of play, and I have seen a situation completely false, and of course, after them. I was really, I have to say sorry for this decision. But it's always after the game. During the game, you are sure that your decision are correct. So yeah, I have never a problem during the game, but after the game, sometimes.
And then how do you kind of let go of those emotions, right? If you're feeling really upset with yourself, how do you deal with that when you maybe made a mistake?
You have to accept the mistakes. The problem is always we don't like to make mistakes, but sometimes mistakes show us what we have to change. The mistakes help us for the future. I say always, like a man who climbs the mountains, for example, he can make the mistakes on the smaller mountains. There is no problem. He fall down perhaps 10 meters, it's okay. But when he makes the same mistakes in the big mountains like Mount Everest or like this, then it's really dangerous. And also as a referee, if you make the mistakes in the third, fourth league, okay, it's hurt. But when you make the same mistakes then in the European or in the Champions League or in the World Cups, then it's not so good. So you have to learn from these mistakes, and the mistakes help you for the future. And I say always to these mistakes, I say always thank you that you show me some things for the future.
We have a question from the chat, which is: can the fans or have the fans maybe ever influenced kind of a decision that you made as a referee?
I hope not. A strong referee never influenced the fans. For a weak referee, could be that he make some decisions. Some, for example, compensate a penalty situation or like this. But these are the weak referees, and then I say always the same. You can make a mistake. But when you compensate, when you make a compromise, you make a second mistake. And one, there are no zero. You make two mistakes. Also, it's better you have one mistake than you have two mistakes. So a strong referee, the fans, they have no influence.
Do you have any kind of a tip of removing bias out of, I guess, decision making? Because right, this is what you have to do on the field. You're not allowed to be for team A or team B. How do you remove this bias and really try to make a decision just based on the rules of the game?
Because as a referee, you go in a role. You are a judge in this moment. You have another dress. You go in a role, and you are in this moment. You are neutral. You see a situation, and for me, I have never a game. For example, there's not playing Bayern versus Real Madrid. There was always on the field of play. It was white against red. So you have not. This is Bayern or this is Real Madrid or like this. This is white against red, and you see a situation, and this situation you have to judge, and you say yes or no, and that's it. It's really easy.
I guess maybe for you with the years of experience that you have, it might be easy.
No, it's easy. It's really easy.
I guess then another question, which might have already answered by that, is how do you handle, or do you even have stress before the game?
The stress or the depression before a game. I think it's important that you're not thinking too much about the game, too much about what's happened. And if you think about the game, you have always thinking in a positive way, always with positive picture and not with negative. And for example, all the games, all the international game, Champions League game, we have always a time before the game when we are in the hotel. For example, we are in the lunchtime, then we go in the hotel and have 3 hours before the game, before we started in the game. And in these 3 hours, you are in the bed. You are sleeping a little bit. And then in this time, I has always the same picture in my head. I whistled the final whistle. Both teams goes to each other, make a big hug and say to me, thank you. The spectators stand up, give a warm applause for all the participants, also for the referees, and we all goes together off the field. And this was always the same picture. It's always with positive, with a good feeling after, and never negative. No, never negative thing. Or when I oversee a handball, or when I give a red card, or is not a red card, or like this. These are negative, positive pictures in your head. And so for me, the pressure there was not so high. Sometimes I was thinking, when come the pressure? I was also waiting for the pressure, but the pressure comes not, no pressure. And I have some assistants. They was under pressure. One, there was so white, I don't see him, because also the wall was white, so all was white. And hey, hi, come on. And I have to speak with him. Hey, come on, it's easy. Come on, it's only a game. It was Napoli against Boavista Porto, but he was so white. No. But I have never such a stress. No.
That's interesting. I guess really right. It's thinking about the best outcome and not even thinking about what everything can go wrong.
Always. And it's also if, as a manager, for example, if you have an important meeting, have a picture how the meeting ends. The meeting ends, for example, with that he signs the contract. He gave the hand and for a good future. This is the positive, not, when we failed today and when he not signed the contract. No, with positive pictures. And then he comes.
Yeah, it's all about the vision, as you say, right?
Of course.
We have another question from the chat. Do you think, I guess, the job of a referee will ever be replaced by cameras and a computer?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. Yeah, a lot of people behind the football scene want to change a lot. They want to change the referee because the referee is it's one factor. It's a factor in the game who is not calculable. I think he can give a penalty or not a penalty. He can give a red card or not red card. So it's very difficult for the club sometimes. What's happened? But this is a part of the football. The football is so interesting because exactly of this fact that not everything is calculable. That a lot of things, you can see. You wait a game, for example, you think it's over. No, it's not over. It's not over because one goal, one decision of the referee, one red card, and the whole game can change. And this is so important in football. And I hope that we go back from all this technique, from all this VAR, from all this. No, we have to go back to the essential of football. That the football, that we have people who make decisions, not computers or people. I don't know where they are sitting. They have not the feeling because the football. You have so much it's intentional or not intentional, that you can see at television. You can feel and perceive on the field of play as a referee with your experience, but not on the television.
So you definitely have a really clear opinion on the computer discussion. But right, it's definitely right. There's a lot of emotions and everything going on, and I guess this part would be removed.
Yeah, and the problem we are always thinking that what we see is real. That what we see is the true. That's not true. It's not true. On the football field, they have another. It's another Wahrheit. It's another what's this Wahrheit? It's another true on the football field, like in the television, and that's why sometimes we have two different games. Sometimes on the football field, everybody was happy. The spectator was happy. The players was happy. Everybody was happy. And you come back on the television. Oh, this was a mistake. This was a mistake. This was not good. Huh? What's happened on the field? Everybody was happy. What's happened? No.
Maybe as a last question is, what is the biggest lesson you learned as a referee?
The biggest lesson as a referee, that the next game is the most important game in your life. That you can have a lot of World Cups, Champions League games, fantastic games, but the next game is the most important game in your life. That you always forgot what's happened. The next step to go.
Thank you very much. Please again, a round of applause for Urs Meier.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
A creative spirit with a kind heart and soul. That's our next speaker. The advertising genius Dennis Lück has won over 1,000 awards and is known as one of Switzerland's most successful and brightest minds in his field. So sit back and let yourself be amazed by the most creative talk you've ever seen before. Dennis Lück, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. Hello and a warm grüezi miteinander. So I don't know if it's going to be the most creative talk you've ever heard, but it's about creativity this evening. It's about creativity, whether creativity is magic or not, spoiler, and it's also about how to create a creative culture, or how to create, even if you look at it at a bigger scale, how to create a creative society. So the origin of this talk goes back 3 years ago. I was playing Lego with my kids in our little play corner, and we were talking about what are we going to build, and then we said, yeah, let's build some houses and maybe make a little city. And we started to build, and 1 or 2 hours later we had built houses that looked like houses. And soon afterwards I was flipping through a magazine, and there was an article about award-winning architecture. And there was this image of the big winner. And it was a house that looked like a whale. And I thought to myself, what am I doing here? Because I teach creativity. Yeah, it's my job to create high-performing creative teams. I shape creative world champions. So I know that the architect who builds a house looking like a whale wins the big prize. And what do I do with my kids? Build houses that look like a house. So I said to myself, something's wrong here. Kids, come back. Come back, come back. We need to play again. Okay, kids. And what I did then was I did what I normally do with the grown-ups. Yeah. I gave them a creative technique to work on. So kids, come back. Okay, let's play again. Look, we have some wonderful houses here, but this time let's do it differently, okay? Let's use our fantasy. Let's use your creative power. We need to build houses that do not look like houses, okay? That's our plan here. And your goal must be, if your friends come in, they must go, wow, I've never seen this before, okay? You got it? Okay, let's start building. So they started building, and maybe 2 hours later, they came back and showed me their houses. So my son, he built a car that was a house. And then my oldest daughter, she built a cupcake sort of house. And my youngest daughter, she took her treasure chest and rebuilt it also as a house. And I was really, really happy with the outcome of this little creative session. So what I did there, as you may call it, was to create a little creative culture at home. And then I thought to myself, I do this with the grown-ups. I teach them all the time. I teach them creativity. And my kids, all other kids in this country, all other kids on this planet, are they taught creativity? And then I wrote an article about this little event that took place, and I was questioning society on how they deal with the creativity of our kids. And that article caused some heavy reactions and also some heavy emotions. And after that, I had to talk now, I think, up to maybe 10,000 teachers, politicians. I got invited into committees on how to create the future of our education system, on how to create the future of certificates, and how we judge people. So it all started there with houses that looked like houses. And what I took out of all this that happened after that, I filtered into 3 points that I want to share with you now. So 3 magical points about creativity and how to create a creative culture. And the first point is shocking. Creativity is no magic. I think that's something we all need to understand. Creativity is no magic. No unicorns, no magic powder, no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. Creativity is a process. Take a look at what I did with my kids. Yeah. I tell you again how the process worked, and then make a transfer to what you do in your everyday life or in your everyday business or here at university. So there was a brief, there was a challenge, there was a task. Then there was a wonderful team, even a diverse team. 2 girls, 1 boy, perfect. And then there was a host of the process. That was me. Yeah, and that's a crucial position because the host steers the creative process. He chooses the tools, the creative techniques to give to the team. He has to know which technique leads to a wonderful result. And then, last but not least, the goal. If you say, yeah, build a house, no one builds a cool house. But if you give an aspiring goal to a team, hey, if your friends come, they need to go, wow, yeah? If you formulate a goal as aspiring, then the creative process gains speed. So that's what you have to do. So the first thing that you need to know is creativity is a well-structured, well-planned, well-organized process. Shocking news for all the creatives in the world, but from my professional point of view, that's the way it is. And if we think now about a creative culture or even about a creative society, we have to multiplicate this process into every single molecule of this society. Yeah? We need to implement that process into cultures, companies, school, university, wherever. And by doing that, we start to create a creative culture. First point. Second point. Creativity is a skill you can teach. Again, maybe something that sounds strange, teaching creativity, you can learn creativity. In my eyes, yes, for sure you can learn creativity. Nothing special about teaching creativity and learning it. The problem that I have with the sentence is not the last part, is a skill you can teach. So I'm fine with that, it's cool. I have the problem with the word creativity. What do you mean when you say creativity? Everybody says, yeah, we need more creativity. Creativity is a super skill. Yeah, all the politicians say, yeah, cool, creativity. What do you mean when you use the word creativity? And when you use it as the word for a skill? That's the problem, because if you look at the definitions for creativity, it goes here and there. Philosophical definitions, 400 pages long, entire books. That's one extreme, and the other extreme is it's so simple and so easy that you say, no, 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 that's not what I mean when I talk about creativity. So I think we need to be more creative with the way we define creativity. And it helped me a lot to split the definition in 3 parts. So that's the creative use of definition for the word creativity. There are 3 definitions for creativity. And those levels, let's call them levels, they help me to define what we need, maybe as a company or even as a society. So let's look at the levels. Let's look at level 1. Creativity is when someone creates something. Easy. Someone bakes a pretzel, that's creating something, so he's creative. That also answers the question if everybody can be creative. Yeah, for sure, because you just need to create something. But that's not what we have in mind when we talk about a creative person. So let's get 1 level higher. Creativity level 2. Creativity is when someone creates something new. So that's where a host comes in. Yeah? Here's a pretzel, bake a pretzel. Then there comes the creative technique, break the routine, break a pretzel that doesn't look like a pretzel. Yeah? So the people build pretzels in the shape of a square. Stupid example, but that's then creativity level 2. They build something new. And that level 2, that's the level that we need to build as a society. Let's go 1 level up. Creativity level 3. Creativity is when someone creates something new that has a lasting impact, either on the world, on society, on your company, on your business, or maybe just on you. But it's the lasting impact that matters. That's where the geniuses are in level 3. And now what we have to understand is that level 2 and level 3, they have an interdependence. So if you create a broader mass of level 2 creatives, you automatically generate more level 3 creatives. Because the difference between those two is just intrinsic motivation. Yeah? In every field, not just in the creative business, in every field, those who are intrinsically motivated become better and can reach genius status in whatever we do. And intrinsic motivation, where does that come from? It comes from discovering the joy of what you do. So we create more level 2 creatives because we've already implemented creativity as a process everywhere. Yeah? So that creates more level 2 creatives. So more people discover the joy of creating things. And that also raises then the amount of level 3 creatives we can create. So far, the dry theory part. And now let's come to the easy bit, teaching creativity. Look, let me make a comparison. Can all of you here in this room, or here in the little windows at home, can you all learn how to play piano if I would teach you 3-4 years? Could you all learn how to play soccer or volleyball if I would teach you 3-4 years? Okay, music and sports, that's easy. Let's take something ugly. Mathematics. If I would teach you mathematics for 13 bloody years, could you become a good or maybe even really good mathematician? Yes, of course. And now we have to do the same thing with creativity. We need to take off the magic of that word, like I did in the first part. Creativity is a process. Now let's look at it again as not being magic. Let's look at it the same way we look at mathematics or biology or chemistry or whatever, piano playing, volleyball playing, whatever. There are hundreds of techniques, creative techniques you can learn. So as we already implemented the process everywhere, now let's teach the techniques. Let's teach it for years. Let's start early and don't stop. You can teach them at university, in school, at your company, or you at home. Yeah, that's the thing we need to do. And if you teach them, then you learn, you exercise, you train, you get better, you get faster, until it's in your blood. And then, when you urgently need it, maybe like in a phase that we have now, snip, and you know which technique could be the one that helps you solve the problem that lies in front of your table. So that's when we talk about creativity and teaching a skill, that's important to know. We need to split it up in levels, and as a society, we need more of the good and very good level. That's the level we can create just by teaching. And just by doing this, we generate automatically more geniuses for the society or for your company or here at university. So that's the thing we need to do. And now, third point. So creativity is a process. We can teach it and you can learn it. Number 3, we need to look at creativity differently. Again, this foggy unicorn magic powder stuff, no. Creativity is performance. We need to understand this. And I think it's just logic. When we talk about it, you will all go, yeah, easy, cool, yeah, I got it. Because if whatever you do, not just in the creative business, if whatever you do it in a way that is more creative than your competitor, you will outperform your competition. If you're creative, you win. Not just in my marketing business, in every business. That's what we need to do. And now there is one element missing. If we all believe, yes, creativity is performance, and it brings us forward in every little segment, we need to identify the performers. And that's something our society does not yet do. We don't have a tool that helps us identify creative people. If I look at you now, who's creative? Hands up. I don't know, you don't know. Because someone did not identify it and bring it down. But if I ask you, what grade did you have in math 2 years ago, you know it, right? And that's the thing we need to change. We need to identify and we need to catch the potential of the people. And that's something that we need in your certificates. That's something we need you to know as well. You need to know if you have a creative potential, or even from a different skill, if you are a critical thinker, a wonderful communicator, or a collaborator, or whatever skill you have. But we need to mark those skills. As a society, we always talk, creativity is the skill we need for the future. So firstly, if it's the skill for the future, why it's not a subject in school? Why don't we teach it here at university? Why is it in a strong part of your company? Yeah? If it's the skill of the future, that's logic, isn't it? And then if it's the skill of the future, we need to identify the people that have the skill, but we only have grades. If we are good, we have certificates. But we need to find a new way on how to measure and judge people, not just by grades. Grades are wonderful. I hate them. I would eradicate them as soon as I can, but I know how long it would take to do that. So let's leave the grades where they are. I understand why we need them, but let's add something. Let's add a layer of potential. Let's formulate if someone is creative or a good critical thinker or whatever, and we can do this because take a look at the other points. We've installed a creative process. There's always a host or a teacher or a boss or a colleague or whatever. So there are people that can testify and are trained to testify and identify your level of creativity, or if it's not creativity, even the other skills that are necessary for the future. They are trained to identify it, so let's write them down. No, not just grades. Grades are fine, but I want to know who has the creative potential for the future. So, and these 3 points, if we would fulfill them, if you would realize them, that would already end up in a creative society. I mean, imagine we install the creative process everywhere. We teach creativity as a skill everywhere. And last but not least, economy accepts creativity as a performance driver. I think that's all it takes to create a more creative society. So that is the big picture. Now let's come back to the motto of this wonderful event. The past, the future, and the best of yourself. Let's come down from big society topics and culture and everything. Let's come down to the best of yourself. Because what I truly think, and what we sometimes forget if we talk about society topics, we always talk about the big picture. Now let's talk about the smallest picture ever, and that is you. The creative culture is you. You can wait for your company or for your university or for your job or for whoever to create a creative culture around you. But what I always tell the people is the creative culture, that's you. Because if you understand all this, if you accept it's a process, if you start learning the techniques or if someone helps you with the techniques, and if you accept it, that creativity is your step forward, your own performance booster, then it will bring you also forward. Then the best of the creative best of yourself comes to the surface. And with those words, I leave you into this wonderful Saturday evening. I thank you so much for listening, and I hope it was fun to listen. Thank you so much.
Hello. Thank you so much again for your talk, Dennis. And please, another round of applause for Dennis Lück.
Thank you. You're too kind. Lovely people here.
We got quite a few questions from the chat, so let's straight jump into them.
Yes.
The first question that you were asked is how can we improve creativity if it's a skill, right? How do you improve it? How do you get better at it?
Think of the piano example. I train, I exercise, even at my age. No, let's look at creativity as being really something that you can train and exercise. That's why, of course, it doesn't fit everywhere. Those examples with learning how to play the piano or learning how to play soccer. Okay, it doesn't match every time. But I truly believe that exercise, training, knowing the techniques, that's what brings you forward. So that's what I'm still doing, even at my age, at my position, at whatever. I don't care. I need to play, I need to train, I need to exercise. And that's what I also recommend to everyone else.
Do you have a good recommendation for an exercise that exercises creativity?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest is the one that I mentioned before. It's called Break the Routine. That's the one I used with my kids. So build a taxi service that doesn't feel like a taxi service. Yeah, build a car that doesn't look like a car. Build a house that doesn't look like a house. So that's something you can easily train. And there are hundreds of them. Yeah. My favorite my favorite is the 180-degree twist. And that's something, wait, give me a second to explain it. Dog bites woman. That's normal, okay? Now let's do the 180-degree twist. Woman bites dog. If you twist things around, yeah, if you just turn them around, you change the ends. That's also a very funny creative technique. And there are many, many, many more.
Another question we got from a viewer is has it ever happened that, right, your creativity is just blocked and you just, you're not coming up with ideas. And how do you deal with that? And how do you, get back the creativity?
Yeah, then I take drugs. No. To be honest, it never happened. It really never happened. Because when I use techniques and when I teach techniques, and it's seldom the case that I do everything all on my own. So I'm normally working in a team, and a team prevents you from having nothing. With a team, you always get ideas, always. But if it comes to a level where you have to press out the ideas, I can always reach level good and very good. I can. That's for sure. So I never have a fear of the white paper, never. But to always reach the genius part, that's the hardest exercise you have to do. And that's why you need a team, not just rely on yourself.
Do you think it's dangerous to kind of rely solely on being creative as your work or your source of income? I have to rely on being creative, but I have to rely on everything that comes with creativity. That's important. I mean, when you talk about creativity, that's not what I did in my talk, but there's many things that come with creativity that you have to do. For example, failure goes hand in hand with creativity. Courage goes hand in hand with creativity.
So these are the side effects that you have to accept to be good at or whatever. So creativity is never something that comes in alone. So I never rely just on my creativity, but I also rely on the fact that I'm fantastic at failing. Yeah, I don't care if I fail. I have learned how to fail. I know that 99 of 100 ideas I have are shit. And as soon as you can accept this, that failure is part of your job, and then failure is part of what makes you excellent. If you have reached that status, then making mistakes is fine. It's funny. I use mistakes to motivate other people. I make my mistakes public when we share them in team. So my mistakes make other people laugh, and that sets down the barrier, and that helps other people to make mistakes as well.
Would you say, right, creativity, you defined it also about really just, right, creating something?
Yeah.
So would you say, right, I guess creativity is quite often just seen as, right, brainstorming activities or creativity techniques where, right, you maybe twisted 180 degree.
Yeah.
But would you say creativity is actually more about, right, coming up with the idea, which is currently perceived as the creative part, but then also executing it? Or do you think that's then another skill?
Well, that's then the execution. From my point of view, I split it between the ideation and the execution. So that's for me 2 phases basically. And with idea, I think that word seems to be too narrow now, because when you think of an idea, it's like you think of a creative person. An idea can also be on how you change the concept of finance bank transfers into different accounts, for example. Yeah, that's also an idea. Yeah, so we need to broaden up with those terms.
And then I guess, right, in the execution phase, there's also some creativity involved, but or do you think it's more of a structured approach?
Yeah, both. Of course, it's structure. I believe in creativity needing a structure all the time. And what you need when you go into execution phase, there are many events that come in, stuff you didn't plan. So you need that flexibility and creativity until the end, until it's really done. So for me, simple things. When tomorrow I have a shooting, if the weather is bad, it's gone. I need in 5 minutes a new script that I can shoot inside a building. So it never ends until you say, no, it's over.
We have another question from the chat, which is, do you think that creativity involves putting your heart and soul into your work, or is it more like just, right, letting your mind flow onto the white piece of paper?
But the mind flow part, I think that's, of course, that's a part you need when your mind starts to flow. But the first thing, I think that's super necessary to just let it or use it as a structural event. That's how I see it. Or maybe did I get the question wrong, or was that an answer to it?
No, I think it was a perfect answer.
Okay, good.
So, right, you have a background, or actually you work also as an advertiser, right? And
Yes.
a question that we just got in a chat is, do you sometimes look at posters or ads and think, oh no, come on, this could have been so much more creative?
Yeah, well, that's a sickness that you get when you work in that job. Actually, I'm looking at everything. I can't stop. It's like an addiction. I can't even look when a child paints something. I can't even tear myself back to say, kid, let's talk about this. No, it's like an addiction, and you sometimes need to remind yourself to switch off. I judge everything. It's like everything you see is creative, and you start to think, that's good, or the way you did this, or why these flowers? Oh, actually they match the design of. No, you can't stop, and I think that's part of the job.
Right, you said that grades you would abolish them as soon as you could, but also said, right, replace it with other skills like creativity. But right, I guess the good thing about, or debatable, but the good thing about grades is really it is measurable, right? You can. So how would you implement that for creativity? Actually, how do you measure the creativeness of someone?
Matrix.
Yeah.
That's what you asked me. That's a question that all people always ask me, and clients always ask me. How do you measure creativity? And I always told them, yeah, it's my gut. It knows, and so they wouldn't believe me. So I at one point, I said to myself, I need a matrix for creativity in order to convince people when they shit in their pants because they don't want to execute my ideas. So I needed a matrix to make the level of creativity visible. And basically with every project you have, you can set up a matrix, you can also set up the KPIs, the key performance indexes, with what you want to reach. Make a scale behind it from 1 to 10, and then you can start to measure your creativity. For example, do you feel that that it's really you, 1 to 10? Would you share it from 1 to 10? Do you think there's a new technology wonderfully involved from 1 to 10, etc.? So all of a sudden, you know this idea is a 6.2. You know it. And then you can start to convince clients when you say, hey, this is a 9.2. I measured it upfront with 100 of people in the agency. We need to do this. If you don't do it, you miss a chance.
So it's all about quantifying the creativity.
Yeah, it helps people to trust in creativity, because creativity is still a fog. Yeah, and if you put numbers behind creativity to support the value, that helps certain people.
And putting that number down, were you always right when you put those numbers, right?
For sure. No, I'm not. I have a second matrix that I use clandestinely in the background, and that's the human emotions. Because I can use the mathematical stuff for clients and for everyone else. But what I also use always in the backup is the emotional metrics. I know an idea is good if people react heavily. Yeah? So I work in a business of reactions. So I need to cause reactions. And I want to measure how extreme are those reactions. So when I produce ideas, and my goal is to make people laugh, they need to laugh their butts off. When I want to annoy Nazis, I want to annoy them as much as they can. So I need to feel what could be the emotional outcome of my idea. And if I say, oh, the Nazis or whoever, they will freak out if I do this, then I know the idea is right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you a lot for those insights. It's super interesting. And yeah, we're moving on to the next talk, but please, another big round of applause for Dennis.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye-bye.
A lot like Dennis, our next speaker also had to be creative. In his search for a system to make society live more sustainably, Mauro di Benedetto found the power of incentives. As the co-founder and CEO of Kili Technologies, who are the first company ever to incentivize the adoption of sustainable behaviors through a digital coin, he's changed the industry for the better. Now he'll tell you all about how he got there and how sustainability is key for our future. A big round of applause to our innovator of sustainability, please.
What do you think is the best way to convince someone to do or not to do something, to change his behavior? Well, let me tell you two very different stories. This woman is Carrie Nation. On December 27, 1900, Carrie went to Wichita, Kansas. She went to the Carey Hotel, a very elegant establishment in town, and she moved to the bar where many people were having their drinks. Carrie took an axe, she was hiding under a long dress, and she destroyed the bar and every glass of alcohol she was finding on her way. That was just one out of the 30 bars that Carrie destroyed in her long career. Carrie was part of the temperance movement, which was one of the many movements supporting the larger prohibition movement in the United States at the beginning of the 20th century. And the two major goals of the prohibition movement were reducing the consumption of alcohol and reducing the supposedly correlated crime rate. Well, despite the expectations, the results of this huge social experiment have been very different. The consumption of alcohol, yes, it decreased in the first year of prohibition, but it bumped up to 60 or even 70% of the pre-prohibition level in the latest year. And regarding crime rate, well, it even increased. And as we all know, prohibition even led to the birth of the organized crime in the United States. So, to sum up, they wanted to change a behavior. They only prohibited that behavior. It didn't work. Let me tell you another story. China, 1998. Everything was in place to allow the booming of the Chinese economy as we know it nowadays. Well, but the Chinese government had a problem, tax collection. They weren't able to collect taxes efficiently. So what they did, they came up with another social experiment in certain areas of the country, and they created a receipt lottery. So basically citizens, they were able to join this lottery just by collecting receipt from transactions. What happens is that the tax revenues for the government increase overall up to 17%, and the tax revenue in the areas where the experiment was in place increased more than 21% compared to the areas where the experiment was not in place. Again, to sum up, they wanted to change a behavior. They not only prohibited that behavior, but they also incentivized a good behavior, and it worked fantastically. But since alcohol prohibition and tax collection are not the most urgent issues for us all, let's talk about an issue that literally affects everyone living on this planet, climate change. Let me give you a general reminder of what climate change is about. Well, when carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere, it acts like a blanket, preventing heat from escaping. And this leads to one of the most obvious effects, which is an outer world, or as we call it, global warming. But why an outer world is so dangerous for our planet? Well, an outer world leads to a wetter world, which means that higher temperature causes glaciers to melt and sea level to rise. And this puts in great danger not only coastal cities, but also entire island nations that risk to go underwater in the next decades. An outer world brings to more extreme weather conditions. The number of hurricanes and megastorms have gone from one every 100 years to once every 16 years, so way, way more often. And eventually, unfortunately, an outer world brings to worsen inequality and conflict. But why is that? Well, because higher temperature leads to crops to be more difficult to be harvested. And in those areas of the world, the poorest areas of the world, when the population is not able to harvest crops, and so to get food, they tend to migrate. And if we combine migration with scarcity of resources, what we get is higher probability of conflict and war. There is a very interesting study that says that 8 out of the 10 countries hosting the largest multilateral peace operation are countries that are highly exposed to climate change. So this is again one of the worst effects of global warming, of an outer world. But how do we stop global warming? Well, that's pretty obvious. We need to reduce CO2 emissions and other greenhouse gases emissions. But the mere reduction in quantity is not enough. We need to reduce them as fast as we can. And that's because if we want to reach the goals of the Paris Agreement, we first need to reach a peak in emissions between 2020 and 2030, and then we can see a decline in those emissions. But the longer it takes to reach this peak, then the faster and more aggressive this reduction will have to be, and so it will have more and more difficult to achieve. When it comes to reducing emissions, we have 3 major players that, let's say, comes into play, that play a crucial role. We have governments, we have consumers, and we have businesses. For sake of simplicity, let's assume that consumers represent the demand of products and services, businesses represent traditionally the supply, and governments just oversee and regulate this relationship between demand and supply. Where for a long time, we have mostly focused on the supply of sustainable product and service. And focusing on the supply has been the right things to do. Because before we stimulate strongly a demand for sustainable product and service, we need to be sure that these products are first of all available in the market, they are as much effective and efficient as the high emission equivalent, and they are available in the market at the same price or even at a cheaper price than the high emission equivalent. So again, focusing on the supply of products and services, of sustainable products and services, has been the right things to do. But now it's time to focus on the demand. There is another very peculiar and interesting study that says that nearly 2/3 of emissions are caused by direct or indirect forms of human consumption. And still, according to this study, if we change human consumption toward a more sustainable lifestyle, we will be able to reduce this emission up to 36 or even 38%. So, to sum up, to stop global warming, we need to reduce greenhouse gases emission at the fastest possible pace. And we have learned that human consumption, consumer behavior, impacts crucially on the reduction of those emissions. So, if we want to stop global warming, we need to change consumer behavior, people behavior, toward a more sustainable lifestyle as fast as we can. But how do we change people behavior? How do we change consumer behavior? Well, we have learned at the beginning of this talk that we have two major ways to change someone's behavior. We can either prohibit, punish a behavior, or we can incentivize a good behavior. Well, when it comes to sustainability, for many years, for many decades, governments and local authorities have been focusing only on prohibiting non-sustainable behaviors. For example, don't drive your diesel vehicle in city center on weekends, or recycle your trash or you'll get a fine. And even if this has been the right things to do, because this has allowed us to draw a clear and official line between what is good and what is not when it comes to sustainability, well, even if this has been good at the beginning, in the long run, this approach, focused only on prohibiting, has proved to be insufficient. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about how to defeat climate change. In my opinion, when it comes to change large masses behavior, we need to apply what psychologists call a positive reinforcement, which means basically a reward that follows a certain action. And when it comes to apply a positive reinforcement to change people behaviors in relationship to sustainability, so to convince people to act sustainably, well, we have many, let's say, many real-life possibilities, real-life options to actually incentivize people, to incentivize consumers to behave more sustainably. Let me just mention some of them. We can incentivize people to use sustainable means of transportation. So, for example, electric vehicles instead of traditional ICE vehicles. We can use positive reinforcement to incentivize people to purchase sustainable grocery or sustainable clothes. Or even better, we can incentivize people to choose renewable source of energy instead of the traditional ones. But when it comes to positive reinforcement in relationship to sustainability in particular, we have two types of, let's say, of positive reinforcement. We have what I will call a financial reward, a financial reinforcement. And again, when it comes to a financial reinforcement, we have two major actors that can effectively activate this kind of reinforcement. We have governments, and let's say the traditional rewards for governments is a fiscal benefit, so act sustainably and you get some sort of fiscal benefit. And we have NGOs and brands. In particular, brands can really incentivize their consumers to purchase and use their sustainable products and services instead of the non-sustainable ones. And they can even leverage on all the more traditional features of loyalty scheme and loyalty programs like points, coins, tiers to actually gamify and make even more funnier this process and so more effective. But brands can also incentivize consumers for certain behaviors that are maybe not directly related to the core business of the brand itself. Another real-life example, UK, London, a few years ago. Citizens of a certain neighborhood, they were able to sign up to a reward scheme that allowed them to earn points for the weight of trash they were recycling. And they could be able to spend those points at local merchants in the neighborhood itself. What happens? Well, recycling in that neighborhood increased up to 35%. This is, again, another example of how brands, thanks to, in this case, a financial reinforcement, could not only incentivize the purchase of their sustainable product and services, but also behaviors that go a little bit beyond their core business. But if we really want to change consumer behaviors, we can't just rely on, let's say, on a financial reward. We need to combine a financial reward with what I will call an emotional reward. What's an emotional reward? An emotional reward is something that touches, let's say, the inner cores of the individual, something that plays with the emotions of the individual. And when it comes to sustainability, the most effective emotional reward, in my opinion, is feeling part of a sustainable circle, of a sustainable community. Well, and in this case, if we want to change people's behavior even more effectively using an emotional reward, we don't have just to make feel people belonging to a sustainable community, but we need to make them feel belonging to a cool, sustainable community, to a proactive, sustainable community. And that comes another goal that we all should achieve, making sustainability cooler, making sustainability cool. And so all the, let's say, movements like Friday for Futures, or the endorsement of celebrities and influencers to the cause of sustainability have helped a lot and have played a crucial role to achieve this goal, to make sustainability cool. So, to conclude, climate change and global warming are the most urgent and compelling issues of our generations. But we can't stop that, we can defeat that if we just rely on governments telling us what to do and what not to do. We need to believe in the power that us, as individuals, have not only in changing things, but also in influencing other people to change their behavior. We, consumers, brands, governments, all together, thanks to positive reinforcement and the power of incentive, have the possibility to defeat climate change and to guarantee a brighter future to our children and to the next generation. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Please, another big round of applause for Mauro.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Niklas.
Very interesting talk, very interesting.
Thank you.
The first question I have is, right, you speak a lot about incentivizing sustainable behavior, and right, the Kiri Technologies, the company that you founded, right, this really enables this. And be very interested to get a bit more details on why did you found Kiri Technologies, and also what is it?
Yes, so Kiri Technologies is the company I co-founded along with other two great co-founders, Kai and Luca, and we came up with the urgency of creating Kiri because we believe that this is the right moment to really, let's say, play a role to, again, as I said in the talk before, to defeat climate change. And we noticed that it was all about the approach. And I don't want to repeat myself, but it's really all about changing drastically the approach from simply prohibiting, telling us, okay, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, otherwise you are like a bad guy, but actually playing on incentives, playing on, I'll do something good and I'll get something back. And that is how with Kiri, that's first of all why we funded Kiri. So the idea of using incentive, positive reinforcement, to create the first currency of sustainability that help people to be more sustainable on their daily life.
So maybe to explain a little bit more for the audience that doesn't know yet what Kiri Technologies is, right? You spoke about that it is a currency. How exactly does this currency of sustainability work?
So It's very simple. You do sustainable actions on your daily life, which might be driving your electric vehicles, purchasing sustainable clothes or sustainable grocery, choosing renewable source of energy. Well, for the CO2 that you save, you earn the Kiri coin, which is our digital coin, and you can spend the Kiri coin inside our Kiri marketplace, where you find a lot of offers, green offers, of course, that are put at disposal from our green merchant. So it's, let's say, kind of a circle that allow people to be sustainable, earning Kiri coin, and then spending Kiri coin if they want on products, sustainable services, charity projects, so even planting trees and so on.
And which companies do you already work with, right? Because I think your approach is very different, that you really want to make sure that the CO2 is really saved and it's not based on user input.
That's actually a very differentiating point of Kiri. We already work with the Stellantis group, which is the 4th largest automotive group in the world, former FCA, Fiat Chrysler, and PSA, Peugeot Citroën. We have launched 2 months ago with the new Fiat 500 electric. So the more you drive electric, the more Kiri coin you get. And the differentiating point is that, as you said, Niklas, we develop some technologies that allow us to be directly integrated within the vehicle. So we know if you're really driving electric, at which speed, and so on. Of course, all GDPR compliant and so on. That is differentiating because, unfortunately, many other services that allow maybe that wants to incentivize people to be sustainable, so they actually are in our same field, they only rely on some sort of self-confirmation, self-statement of the user, which, as you can understand, has really a little value.
Yeah. And I guess, also Kiri technology, you spoke a lot about making it cool, right? Because that it appears to the mass. And what do you do with Kiri, or what are you trying to do with Kiri to make it cool?
Well, I mean, there is a news that came yesterday, but I still can't, unfortunately, tell it now for legal reasons. But we want to create, what I can say is that we want to create a community of sustainable brands and individual. When I say community, I don't mean the traditional community of just individual. I mean a community of brand and individual, and even NGOs and governments that all share the same value, the same goal toward the problems, to solve this problem. And what we are doing is we are involving the largest influencer, actors, celebrities in the world per sector to actually, let's say, create a sense of awareness to their audience to, to reduce emissions through, let's say, the dynamic of the incentive.
So you speak a lot about measuring and incentivizing sustainability, but what, from a personal standpoint, what do you actually do to be more sustainable?
First of all, I have to be very, very honest here. I was not, till 1.5 years ago, I look at sustainability probably as the 99.9% of people, unfortunately, in this world relates to sustainability, which means it's something good. We should all be sustainable, but yeah, it's there. Maybe I won't change my own behavior today. And then I say, okay, but are these people so bad? And are the little minority of people that maybe act already very sustainable like the only solution? And my answer was, no, we actually need to play on those people, on the large masses of the population, if we want to reduce emissions. So what I tried to do on my own, it was simply doing what I was doing before, simply in a different way. And the market came in my direction. The market gave me electric vehicles. The market gave me sustainable clothes. The market gave me sustainable grocery. Then, of course, with the basic idea of consuming a little bit less, that's, of course, it's the, let's say, the paramount objective. But again, with the goal of a transition, of something that doesn't have to happen necessarily from one day to another, but every day you must build up something, you must do a little action that gets you, let's say, on your habits, let's say that change your habits toward a more sustainable lifestyle. And that's what I did on my own.
So you would also say, right, kind of this radical change that is also wanted by a lot, this radical, you have to be green from, right, this day you're not and the next day you are. Do you think it's unrealistic and not the way to move forward to actually achieve sustainability?
I'm not saying that it's bad. Saying, I would love to do that. I would love to that will be real. In my opinion, again, it's simply utopic, simply unrealistic. You can't change someone's behavior from one day to another like 100%. It goes in stages. First, you do a little thing. Then maybe you start eating less meat. Then you start purchasing one cloth less. Actually, no, even differently. First, instead of purchasing less clothes, you start purchasing second-hand clothes. And then maybe you start purchasing less clothes. And the same with other items, with other products and services. But again, this has to be, it's a transition, it's a process.
So it's right on a kind of on a large scale to move everyone into the right direction is what also right, the Kiri technology is trying to
Yes,
achieve.
otherwise we will keep talking about sustainability in small circles and we won't change anything, unfortunately.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
insightful. And yeah, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Please,
Thank you
another
again.
round of applause.
Well, sadly, it's time to say goodbye. But before I make the official goodbye, I would like to say a few thank yous. So first of all, thank you again to our sponsors. This wouldn't have been possible without you. We wouldn't have been able to provide for either our amazing audience, the live stream, everything. Thank you to FHNW for letting us use this room, for all of the setups, for the last minute adjustments and all of the unannounced phone calls and visits. It won't happen again next year. Thanks to you. We couldn't have wished for a better audience this year. And we hope to see you all again here next year. And of course, a huge thank you to our wonderful speakers. Every single one of you blew us away with your inspirational talks, and you're all incredible personalities. So thank you for coming out here today. It was a pleasure to have you here. Soozana, Daniel, Mauro, Robin, Dennis, Urs, Anna, David, and Xenia. We wish you all the best. Please keep doing what you're doing. You're all on the right track to change the world. And last but not least, thank you to the TEDxFHNW family, everybody who came out here today. This really wouldn't have been possible without you. So thank you so much. We really appreciate all the efforts and hope that we will have you all on board again next year. And I'd like to end this evening with a quote from Jackson Brown Jr., which is, "The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today." So thank you again, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.